And whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have saved Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. For the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me in the next hour, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Lauser. In a few moments' time, I'll be mucking the week. And of course, we have a Labour government after 14 years of Tory leadership. Former MP Scott Benton will be joining me in the studio for my political spotlight, and we'll be speaking about the proportional representation versus first past the post. And what's going on here? My difficult conversation today, guest Becky Holt has been dubbed the most tattooed mum in Britain. But before we get started, let's get your latest news.
Thanks, Nana. Good afternoon. 1 minute past 3. I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. Our top stories. So Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda are now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the Prime Minister ruled out the controversial scheme, which had failed to deport a single person. He also said Labour's election victory has given them, quote, a clear mandate to govern in all 4 corners of the UK.
Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent, almost the opposite, because everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%.
Well, the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, not overly surprised by that. He's claiming, though, that Labour will struggle to deal with this issue of illegal immigration.
Well, he said he would do it. At least he's kept a promise, I suppose. Look, Rwanda was never going to work. What Keir Starmer is proposing, which is to, tackle the gangs, well, frankly, the last government were doing that for the last few years. It's not going to work. At the minute, it's wild and windy. But we do have some pretty strong first-hand accounts that as soon as we get a calm spell, they'll be crossing the English Channel in their thousands. And let's face it, Keir Starmer does not have a plan to deal with it.
Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GB News that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seat of Godalming and Ash and has previously tried twice to become Tory leader. Meanwhile, Suella Braverman has failed to rule herself out, simply saying that there were no announcements. Police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to help look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife. That's a journey which would have taken him around 11 hours. Police called off their official search last week, but Jay Slater's mum says they will stay on the island now to look for him. In the US, President Biden is refusing to take a cognitive test to determine if he's in mental decline. In an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, he also dismissed calls from some Democrats to step aside and let a younger candidate take on the Republican Donald Trump. Biden has been attempting to defuse the political crisis over his shaky debate performance. He claims he simply had a bad night.
Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do.
The government has announced a new support package for Caribbean countries affected by the destruction of Hurricane Beryl. New Foreign Secretary David Lammy has increased funding up to $500,000. The money will be used to help those whose homes and livelihoods have been impacted by the Cat 5 hurricane. The aid package also includes hundreds of emergency shelter kits, which are capable of supporting up to 4,000 people. Prince of Wales is set to attend England's clash against Switzerland later in the Euros quarter-finals. The Prince, who is also the president of the FA, will be cheering on Gareth Southgate's side in Dusseldorf as they hope to secure a place in the semis. Spain knocked out hosts Germany with a dramatic extra-time winner, while France beat Portugal on penalties last night. Kick-off for our boys, 5 p.m. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Ray Addison. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel, and it's time to mark the weekend. What a busy one it's been. Under the election fever that's gripped many parts of the world, Wimbledon kicked off. Who knew? Then in France, Marine Le Pen declared her party had practically wiped out Emmanuel Macron after winning the first round of voting in the French election. The fallout of the Joe Biden-Trump debate rumbled on, with calls for him to step down. And in the meantime, election fever gripped the UK. Sir Keir Starmer announced that he may not work after 6 p.m. when he's Prime Minister. He told a radio station that he does not do a work-related thing after 6 p.m. Pretty well come what may. He wanted to protect time with his family and will continue with this habit. Great work if you can get it. I respect the notion, but you're the Prime Minister dealing on an international scale. Not sure that will fly. Rishi Sunak suggested that Keir wouldn't actually have enough time to get the job done properly, but then he would say that. Whatever you think of Rishi, though, he was hard-working as the former Prime Minister. And, of course, the former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, came out in support of him. He was the man who actually betrayed him. But that was not enough to stem the flow of votes for the Labour Party. And Sir Keir Starmer was elected with a landslide victory. I think it was some over 400 seats. The Tories got just 121. The Liberal Democrats, 72. Reform, I think they just got 5 or 6, despite the fact that they got 500,000 more votes than the Liberal Democrats. And the SNP, well, they got 9, squashing their stranglehold on Scottish politics. But in my view, the real winners were Reform, who came second to the Labour Party in 98 seats and taking over 4 million votes, 500,000 more, as I said before, than the Liberal Democrats, who took 72. That can't be right. Yesterday, Keir picked his cabinet, which was almost unchanged. Angela Rayner remained his deputy. Rachel Reeves became the first female Chancellor, and David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary. But to be fair, the Labour Party were the only credible option to lead the country. In Keir's speech today, he promised to be a Prime Minister for even those who didn't vote for him or those who voted for him for the first time. However, He didn't take a question from GB News. It's been a mucky old week.
Some 80% of British voters didn't vote for you. That's including those who didn't vote at all. What does that mean in practice, in a sense, for the culture of the government and how you'll govern?
It was very important to me to say what I said on the steps yesterday about those that didn't vote for us, because we're a government of service to all people, whether they voted for us or not. And I include within that people who voted Labour for the first time on Thursday.
Right, so coming up, we've got a cracking show for you. I'll be making light of the top stories in Muck the Week, and we have a new Prime Minister for this week's topic. In my roundtable discussion, we'll be continuing to unpick the results of the general election and what it means for our future. Then stay tuned at 3:35. Uri Geller will be live to discuss the latest from Israel and what the impact of the UK general election has as the pro-Palestinian MP becomes the 6th largest party. And then joining me to shine a light in the political hot seat today is former MP Scott Benton. He'll be speaking about the proportional representation and whether Britain should scrap first past the post. He is my political spotlight at 3:45. That is on the way. Tell me what you think as ever. Send me your comments, post me your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. Right, so joining me now is author and presenter Emma Wolf, former advisor on Britain to the US Congress Lee Cohen, deputy leader of the he's still the deputy leader of Reform UK?
As far as I'm aware.
You are still, yes. Ben Habib, and also former Labour MP Bill Rammell. Right, so I'm going to start. OK, so how does everybody feel about the result? Bill Rammell, your party won.
It was a historic, seismic Labour landslide, a complete rejection of the Conservative Party. You look at some of the seats that we won that we've never previously held, both the Southend seats, both the Bournemouth seats, 3 seats in Cornwall, Aldershot, and a lot of them with big majorities. The country changed significantly on Thursday. I think they had trust in Keir Starmer in the way that they most certainly didn't have trust in Jeremy Corbyn, and they voted for change, and it's frankly like a breath of fresh air.
Breath of fresh air. Emma Wolf, a breath of fresh air.
No. A lot of people didn't vote at all. I think the low turnout is one of the stories of this election. Let's be clear, this is a story of Tory collapse. It's not a story of a huge, overwhelming enthusiasm or love for the Labour Party. But to me, the real issue here is the numbers, is the disparity between the number of votes cast and the representation. And I think that needs to be addressed urgently. The disparity between the number of votes. Let's just run through those key numbers.
Okay.
Reform got 4.1 million votes and got 5 seats. Lib Dems, 3.5 million votes and 71 seats.
I thought it was 72, so 71.
71?
Yep.
Green, 1.9 million and got 4 seats. So Reform got more than double of what the Greens got, and they're on 4 and 5 seats. I mean, I just think this is appalling. I think this is, in a democratic country, every vote should somehow count. I know it's never going to be an exact science, but to look at these figures, to look at these numbers and to realise that over 4 million people's votes are represented by 5 Reform MPs in the House of Parliament, I think is appalling.
Ben Habib.
Well, I mean, I can't disagree with that. Why would I disagree? I think it makes perfect sense. And the Tories, I think, got less than twice the number of votes we did, and they got 120 seats versus our 5, 24 times, you know, the number of seats. But the real story, actually, I agree that, you know, the numbers look wrong, but the real story is that under first past the post, Reform UK, which 3 months ago was forecast not to get any seats, got 5 seats. And this is a seismic political event because this will have a number of impacts. The first is it'll allow Reform UK to build real networks within those 5 constituencies, local councillors, campaigners, canvassers, understand those constituencies in a way that we've never been able, as an insurgent party, to understand any constituency. We will have government money coming to us, funding those constituencies. And from that position, we will be able to build now for the next 5 years a campaign across the country. And as I think Emma might have mentioned, we came second, or perhaps you didn't, but we came second in 98 seats against Labour.
I mentioned it, yeah.
And And we will be targeting those seats in particular. Labour is sitting on a lot of very thin majorities. There will be by-elections, and you will see more seats coming to Reform UK over this Parliament. And the challenge for Reform UK now is to go from being a decrying detractor insurgent on the sidelines to being a party that now has representation in Parliament, cares about its constituents' interests, and has to build up a team of professionalise it and democratise our party, which, as we know, is controlled by a couple of people at the moment. So, you know, these are the challenges we face. I think we will rise to these challenges, and we, I think, have a very, very good chance, as Nigel says, of being the dominant power in 2029. Because the nation is crying out, as Emma indicated, for small c conservatism. There's not an appetite for Labour. This was a rejection of big C conservatives who've forgotten how it is to be conservative.
Bill, oh no, you're not Bill Rummel, he's over there. You can see why I got you guys confused.
It's the bald heads.
Well, as the only American on the panel, I bring a different perspective, but I bring a perspective as your staunchest ally, which is that I'm both encouraged and concerned. I'm concerned because with our woeful leadership in the White House at the moment, engaging with Keir Starmer, what promises to be a foreign policy that could be dangerous, and we already have a leader in the White House in Joe Biden who's not leading, who's encouraging our worst enemies. And we would, of course, rather engage with a foreign policy that is that is more formidable in that regard. I also am interested that the commentary by Americans on the election has largely been wrong because our mainstream media, the New York Times, tends to love the fact that there would be this great left-wing narrative, left-wing swing in the UK, whilst Europe is going right. And this is clearly not the case. There was not some great embracing of the Labour manifesto. It was rather a repudiation of the woeful leadership of the Tory party. Sorry.
Well, let's
Well, I was just going to say the non-conservatism of the Tory party. Actually, the move in this country is the same as Europe. People want a nationalist. They want national interest to be put first. Those are the parties that are winning in Europe. And I reject the fact that we're a right-wing party. We're a nationalist party as opposed to globalist.
But you know what? I don't think this is the big victory for reform that you're suggesting. Go back 2 weeks, and most commentators were projecting that you could potentially overtake the Tories and you'd get closer to 20%. The longer the campaign went on, the more Nigel Farage really didn't like scrutiny. And I'm fascinated...
No, it's not,
hold on,
that, Ben.
I'm fascinated that you just acknowledged, rightly so, that reform is not a political party, it's a business owned by two people.
When did he... he didn't say that. He didn't say it's a business owned by two people.
He said there are only two people who matter.
Democratise it.
They need more people who are front runners in the party, is what he's saying. He didn't ever say it was a business owned by two people.
But that's what it is now. It's, you know,
well,
Nigel Farage comes back and says he can take over and no one can challenge him.
So can I'll address both those things, but just addressing the first point, there was a concerted all-out attack on Reform UK in the last 2 weeks of the general election.
There was.
And
that's called politics and scrutiny.
But it's got nothing to do... You said this wasn't a victory. This was a huge victory. Let me tell you how many chat shows I've been on saying, you guys are just spoilers, you won't get representation in Parliament. Now they're saying, you got representation, but you only got a small representation. We are building. Every step of the way since last October, when we got 5.4% in Tamworth, we have built, and we are still building.
Well, they're still building, and whilst they're still building, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. I love that, your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £30,000. It's totally tax-free, which means that you'll get that lot to do whatever you like with it, which is wonderful. That never happens. Here are the details that you need to take part.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, the 5 independent pro-Palestinian candidates of unseated Labour rivals. We'll be getting to the latest from the ground in Israel with Uri Geller. But next, we'll continue to unpick the new political landscape with my brilliant roundtable. This is GB News.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Question is...
Should our museums stay free for everyone and anyone, or should we be charging our tourists?
So many of the artefacts are from around the world, stolen actually. I think it's almost to add insult to injury to ask people to pay to see the artefacts that were taken without their permission. One of the things that the museum set itself up for is a kind of World Heritage where you can see the stuff they took from your country free of charge. Because the British state's willing to do that, is one of the reasons why we hold on to many of the artefacts from around the world instead of giving them back.
I mean, that's a noble argument, Wayman, but none of the other countries in the world that also contain artefacts from all over the world indulge in that, do they? We still have to pay to see anything that's come from the UK that might be overseas?
No, but the absolute truth is that we've stolen a lot more over many more years than anybody else. Because we're we had a very, very big empire, and during that time, taking things from other countries without their permission.
And I think our wonderful country, the United Kingdom, is the cradle of modern civilization, not of the ancient world, but of the modern world. You know, for centuries, we've contributed things to the world, which has spread out around the world, and the influence that we've put upon countries around the globe has been massively significant. I think it's a privilege for people to be able to come to this country and track the history of our country through our museums. I can't understand why they've ever been free. The upkeep of museums runs into hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Somebody's got to maintain them and keep them good. Somebody's got to go around the world and collect the artifacts which are in our museums. And I've always had the adage in life, if something is free, it's probably not worth having.
The People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, I was about to say Rishi Sunak, it's not, it's Sir Keir Starmer, has been setting out his vision for a changed government. Speaking to the press in number 10 Downing Street, he promised to do things differently. Well, joining me now is GB News political reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, so we heard the conference. He didn't take a question from GB News, I noticed, which was a bit disappointing. But what did you make of what he said today?
Well, afternoon. Yeah, he didn't take a question from GB News. He did speak to 5 other broadcasters first, which, as I say, was interesting. Nonetheless, this was about demonstrating his authority and setting out the agenda for the first week or so of the administration. The big headline here is he has confirmed, as he said during the campaign, that he has scrapped the Rwanda plan. He said it's dead and buried. So that plan is not going forward. We also still have a reshuffle, or the appointment of his first cabinet ongoing, and he has appointments to make over the next couple of days, particularly in the more junior ministerial positions. Tomorrow he will head to Scotland first for what is going to be a whistle-stop tour of the 4 nations of the UK. Then on Tuesday he will meet with Metro mayors across both parties to build relationships with them. Then on Tuesday night and into Wednesday it's his first big international debut. He'll be heading to Washington for the NATO summit. So a lot of on-the-job training. It's no time to stop and smell the roses despite his victory. It's a very busy time. He's also he's becoming a chair for 5 mission boards, as he's calling them, across Whitehall. These will be directing the civil service to manage what he has described as his 5 missions on things like economic growth and the NHS. So a lot going on, a lot to absorb. I thought it was a measured and steely debut. Again, didn't take too many questions, but looked authoritative.
Thank you very much, Adam. That is Adam Cherry. Right, well, this is GB News. Welcome back. Joining me now, author and presenter Emma Wolfe, former advisor on Britain to the US Congress, Lee Cohen, deputy leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib, also former MP Bill Rammell. Come to you straight away. The press conference, no question from GB News.
That's a shame, but I'm delighted to hear that Keir Starmer's decided that Rwanda was a total, well, from his decision, Rwanda has now been a total waste of millions of pounds of UK taxpayers' money. I mean, many of us thought it was anyway, but that money has been spent and has effectively been wasted. That's a great start. I mean, meeting his cabinet, he's worked with these guys for the last million years, so there's nothing really new there. There are some interesting appointments in, James Timpson, in charge of prisons, but then we have these odd things like Patrick Vallance, who had a questionable role in the whole COVID and lockdown process, who's now going to be something to do with health, I think. So, yeah, I'm not feeling deeply, as you can tell, I'm trying to be enthusiastic, but I'm not feeling deeply inspired by the old faces, same old, but now sitting around the cabinet from the shadow.
Bill Rammell, your people, I should say. Your party. Yeah, so did you think he performed well for the press conference?
I think he did, and he's an incredibly capable leader, and I think that will become clearer and clearer. I actually disagree with you, Emma, about Patrick Vallance. I think if you did an opinion poll amongst the public, he would come across as one of the most respected health experts in the country. And the fact that he's taken on a role as science minister within the Labour government, I think is a very positive step. Also on Rwanda, and you acknowledge, Emma, it was a waste of money. We are saving money, 200 million that was due to be spent on a programme that is no deterrent, that we can invest in proper measures to tackle illegal immigration.
What about the money that was spent on Rwanda?
Well, ask Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
He was responsible for it.
It's just that is UK taxpayers' money desperately needed.
But hold on. Some people would support Rwanda. Some people still support it and think he's wrong to do that. And he will still need an area to send people who he cannot send back to, say, Afghanistan or to other countries where we do not have any deals with. So Rwanda would have been a processing and a holding place for those people. So he will still need a third country. So
there is no mechanism put forward by either the Conservative Party or the Labour Party that will deal with illegal migration to this country. They are obsessed with what they call the rules-based world order. And under that rules-based world order, you're not allowed to protect your borders. You're not allowed to actually enforce your borders because some international court will come along and overrule you, which we saw with Rwanda was always doomed, 400 million. Giving the thick end of £1 billion to the French to stop the boats when actually they're escorting these boats to the edge of our territorial water. What we need to do is rediscover the fact that border enforcement requires force at our borders. And border force needs to take a leaf out of the Belgians' book, where they have developed a dedicated force using sensors, drones, fast boats, well-trained, specifically trained people to intercept dinghies that are leaving their boats and send them back to the shore.
So are you agreeing with Keir Starmer's border force?
No, completely. No, not at all. I mean, it is absolute smoke and mirrors. What he's brought together are 4 domestic agencies in this country, Crown Prosecution Service, MI5, Immigration Enforcement, and one other, I can't remember the name of it. 4 of them together under what he calls counter-terrorism legislation. But the people smugglers aren't in this country. The people smugglers are all in Europe. If there was a mechanism by which to get control of those people smugglers and break their gangs, the Europeans would have done it. You can't do it from domestic agencies based in the UK. We have to stop the boats at our borders. And the French, in turn, need to stop people entering France illegally, and so on.
Why would they do that?
Because they need to
but they're leaving the France. They don't want them there.
Well, you know, it's fascinating to listen to this debate because, of course, we are embroiled in this same thing where we have no borders in the United States. Joe Biden and the Democrats are willfully inviting everyone into the country, illegals, so that they can gain more votes, and it is impoverishing our cities. It is making our cities frightfully unsafe. And only just now, when there started to be a public outcry, even on the left, where in New York City they're giving illegal migrants that are coming credit cards with $2,000 on them, things like this, and we're all paying for this. So it's really interesting.
This is the global rules-based system, which is absolutely attacking nation states.
Indeed.
But that's the global reality that all nations are facing.
No, it isn't. But Bill, it isn't.
Hold on, Ben.
But it isn't.
I tell you what, you can make a difference. The last Labour government, net migration was a third of what it is today. And part of that, and I was a Foreign Office Minister at the time, was intense cooperation between the Foreign Office and the Home Office, working at it practically, and we significantly reduced numbers.
Aren't some of the issues we are facing now part of the way it was set up? So things that were set up by the Labour Party...
Absolutely right.
Well, that's what I thought.
Absolutely right.
Like what?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Labour Party has... the Labour Party, crucially, made the European Court of Human Rights the supreme judicial body in the United Kingdom. Tony Blair's one of his first acts...
that British judges could make those decisions rather than a foreign court.
No.
That's the reality.
No, Bill, what happens now is if you've got a human rights complaint, it goes to the Supreme Court. If you lose, that's not the end of it. They then go to the European Court of Human Rights, an unelected body of semi-educated individuals...
All courts are unelected.
No. But that's not the point.
I would never want the day when courts are elected.
Bill, the point is that this is a body over which the British people, through its parliamentary system, has absolutely no say. And there's no accountability for the ECHR. It is, and it's really interesting, Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights requires every peoples to be governed democratically. The European Court of Human Rights is an intrinsically undemocratic institution, and it has been imposed on the British people by a Labour government.
Do you know, in decent democracies, you have separation between politicians and the judiciary. And I saw you nodding when I said you have dangers with an elected judiciary, and we see that.
I'm not suggesting an elected judiciary, but a judiciary based. I'm suggesting not one based in Strasbourg, which is a foreign body.
I think the point that was being made was that whilst you were sort of wondering about how incredible Labour's record was on immigration,
much better than the last government.
I was simply putting to you that the reason we're in this state are because of rules that Labour put in place before they left office. Emma?
I don't see why we can't listen to people saying that we want to protect our borders in our nation. And
absolutely right.
To put British people first. That does not mean we are xenophobic or racist. It simply means that we care about the people in this country first.
And I'm not suggesting that, but I want practical measures to reduce migration numbers.
What I'm saying is next time you start gloating about Labour's brilliant record, just remember some of the things they put in place that have put us in this position.
Yeah, but Nana, you can't...
I just want Ben to correct something, because we spoke about reform being a business.
Yeah, so I mean...
About 30 seconds.
So far it's worked extremely well that Reform is a private limited company controlled by Nigel and Richard. But in order to become the big democratic force that we wish to be, we must must ourselves democratise.
Right, OK, so you were right with the thing that you said earlier. I just needed to correct that.
I don't think Nigel will allow you to democratise.
No, I had to correct that for the record. All right, well, listen, thank you so much to Emma Wolfe, author and presenter, former advisor to Britain, the US Congress, Lee Cohen, Deputy Leader of Reform, Ben Habib, also former Labour MP, Bill Randall. Right, you're here with me, Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. My niggle, Nana's niggle, is on the way next. But first, let's get your latest headlines with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Nana. 3:32. Sir Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda is now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the PM ruled out the controversial scheme, which had failed to deport a single migrant. He also said that Labour's election victory has given them, quote, a clear mandate to govern in all four corners of the UK. Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GB News that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seat of Godalming and Ash and has previously tried twice to become the Tory leader. Police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife. Now, that's a journey which would have taken around 11 hours. Police called off the official search last week, but Slater's mother says they will stay on the island to look for him. The government has announced a new support package for Caribbean countries affected by the destruction of Hurricane Beryl. New Foreign Secretary David Lammy has increased funding up to £500,000. That money will be used to help those whose homes and livelihoods have been impacted by the Cat 5 hurricane. The Prince of Wales is set to attend England's clash against Switzerland later in the Euros quarter-finals. The Prince, who is the president of the FA, will be cheering on Gareth Southgate's side in Dusseldorf as they hope to secure a place in the semis. Spain knocked out hosts Germany with a dramatic extra-time winner, while France beat Portugal on penalties last night. Kick-off for our boys, 5 p.m. Right, those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Ray Addison. Tatiana Sanchez will be here in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Ray. Still to come, former MP Scott Benton will be in the My Political hot seat to shine a light on proportional representation versus first past the post. But next, as 5 independent pro-Palestinian candidates have unseated Labour rivals, we'll be getting the latest from the ground in Israel with Uri Geller. Do not go anywhere.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend is sunny spells for some of us, scattered showers around but still feeling cool. We've got low pressure generally in charge, that's moving its way eastwards, and northwesterly winds giving that cool feel for the time of year. So through this afternoon, any showers gradually easing later on, so turning dry across parts of England in towards the southeast, but showers still continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland before further showers come in from the southwest. Temperatures tonight, though, under the clear spells, 10 or 11 degrees, but feeling fresher across parts of rural Scotland. So to start Sunday morning, there will be some drier and brighter weather around, especially across eastern parts to start the day. But further towards the southwest, we've got a focus for some heavy showers moving in from the south, heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder, and coming into northwestern parts of England as well. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers as well, just into coastal areas, but across parts of Scotland, a little bit drier with plenty of sunshine, just some rain coming to Orkney and Shetland to start the day. So as we go through Sunday, showers continuing but actually becoming more widespread as we go through into the afternoon. Heavy at times, containing the odd rumble of thunder too. Across Scotland, dry here with some sunnier spells and lighter winds for many of us as well. So that will help with the temperatures, giving a slightly warmer feel where you do catch any sunshine. And across parts of Scotland, temperatures recovering up around to 15 degrees. Sunday evening then we'll start to see showers fading away, turning drier with some late evening sunshine. But another area of low pressure is coming in towards the southwest. So as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday generally unsettled, but temperatures may be recovering just slightly.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So welcome back. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 39 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Now, 5 independent pro-Palestinian candidates have unseated Labour rivals, effectively making them the 6th largest party. Shaukat Adam, who has been elected as MP for Leicester South, celebrated with a Palestinian keffiyeh scarf, dedicating his victory to the people of Gaza. The new MPs have consistently championed the Palestinian cause during their campaign. So joining me now is former mystifier Uri Geller. Uri, talk to me. What's on your mind?
Hi, Nana. Okay. Look, it's really good to be on your show once again. And wow, what dramatic events in the UK. Now, look, I'm Israeli and British, so the elections matter to me. And Nana, your new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, will have to deal with Israel and Gaza as his first big foreign policy issue. And did you know, I bet you didn't, that Keir Starmer's wife has close relatives here in Israel. In fact, he said half of his wife's family live in Israel. Look, I'm sure he watches GB News. So let me say something to him right now, directly on your show. Listen, Keir. Listen to me. Congratulations, first of all, on your fantastic success. I would like to invite you and all your family to come to Israel, come to visit my museum. You will have an amazing time here. But back to the elections. For me, Nana, for me, the best result of the night was this man, George Galloway. George Galloway got kicked out by the voters after just 54 days. Nana, that's even shorter than the lifespan, if I may, shorter than the lifespan of a dung beetle, okay? The Houses of Parliament are now Galloway-free zone. Let me continue. This is important. See this? Let me remind you that Galloway says he refuses to meet Israelis, but he couldn't wait to be photographed with me grinning like a Cheshire cat. So I salute the great British electorate for dumping this clown. He got what he deserves. But what's going on with Jeremy Corbyn, Nana? He's like bad smell that just won't go away. What kind of people voted for him? You may as well vote for Hamas. Look, I hope Labour has a positive relationship with Israel, but the signs, Nana, are not good. I think Keir Starmer is a good man, but I'm worried, Nana. I'm worried about the rest of the party. David Lammy, your new foreign minister, says he would support the arrest of our prime minister if the international criminal law gives the order. That is that's outrageous. You know, this man who says he believes that men can grow a cervix. Look, I know we are rushed on time. Good luck for England tonight against Switzerland. Let me make a prediction. I might be wrong, of course. I predict England will win 2-1. I love you all.
Oh, thank you, Uri. Lovely to talk to you. And, of course, those people aren't here to defend themselves because George Galloway's not here to defend himself. So, you know, obviously, and those are Uri's thoughts and his thoughts alone. And also Jeremy Corbyn isn't here to defend himself. I'm sure he'd refute that allegation. But next up, former MP Scott Benton will be live in my political hot seat to shine a light on proportional representation versus first past the post in Political Spotlight.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
The mystery surrounding the disappearance of flight MH370 has perplexed the planet now for 10 years. But now all of a sudden researchers at Cardiff University have piped up and said, oh, we heard a beep. Aerospace engineer, founder of MH370search.com is Richard Godfrey. Richard, are we going to find this thing?
The new research is much more thorough and gone in much more detail. It is picking up acoustic waves under the water. It's not conclusive, but it's a good step forward.
Is this a cover-up job of epic proportions? Do you think something quite sinister happened to this plane? Because it is all very odd.
I think you're right. It is all very odd. It is. We have a lot of data, but we don't have the final analysis, and we won't until we actually find the wreckage. The Indian Ocean is a huge place, 77 million square kilometers. When we find the plane, we can recover the flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder. We can learn a lot more.
Do you think someone might have shot it down?
No, the plane flew until it ran out of fuel. The plane was perfectly in working order. There was an active pilot right until the end. So my only theory at the moment is the captain of the plane actually committed a hijack of his own plane. But until we find it, we won't be able to prove that.
We are potentially a step closer now to knowing and to one of the greatest mysteries of recent times anyway, finally being solved. There's aerospace engineer there, Richard Godfrey. Thank you.
Britain's election channel, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's Tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Well, if you just tuned in, where have you been? It's fine. It's just coming up to 46 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for this week's Political Spotlight. And joining me to shine a light is former MP Scott Benton. Now, the British Parliament would look significantly different if the 2024 election votes were directly converted into seats. Now, there is a debate over whether proportional representation is more democratic than the first past the post system that we have here. And it's unclear if the British public desires a change in the way we vote. So I'm joined now by Scott Benton. Scott, first of all, how are you looking so well? Why is this?
Hello, Nana. Great to be back on. I have to say, I love your frock, by the way. My mum is your biggest fan, and she'll be shouting, how lovely is that frock, down the television set. So I've been enjoying life out of politics the last few months. I've been to a different couple of countries, got back a few weeks ago, got a flavour of the campaign trail, and, of course, the result has been inevitable, hasn't it, for a number of weeks now. But I think it's fair to say Labour's landslide victory victory is somewhat hollow in many regards. It's almost like it's a mile wide, but only an inch deep in some respects. And we've never had a government coming into office with just 34% of the vote and a Prime Minister with such appalling sort of results on his own personal performance, his own quality, and all of those different things as well. And in terms of sort of going forward, he's going to have some significant challenges, the economy, small boats, all of those different things. And I think he's going to have very little in the way of a honeymoon period as well.
Well, look, you're right, a very small turnout. But the system itself seems a bit broken. When Reform got over 4 million votes, whereas the Liberal Democrats actually got fewer votes but came away with over 70 seats, whereas Reform got so few. Do you feel that there's a sense that we need to start looking at the way the system is structured?
Absolutely. I think Labour received 63% of the seats on just 34% of the votes. That's absolutely shocking. And there'll be a number of people looking there thinking, well, does this actually reflect how the British people feel as a collective whole? I think Reform rightly will feel particularly aggrieved. Huge number of votes for a brand new start-up party on a shoestring budget with very little central infrastructure, and yet receiving just 1% of the vote. And what we have seen, Nana, is the rise of parties on the left with the Greens, on the right of the spectrum with Reform, doing very, very well, and those results not being backed up by members of Parliament. So I think there will be calls to look at the election system once again. We're not the 1960s or 70s where 80% of people voted for Conservative or Labour. Just 60% of people, less in fact, voted for one of the two main parties on Thursday.
But they're not going to want to change it because with the system, if you are ahead, then in the system you will stay ahead. So they're obviously, to them, it's a good thing. Whoever, I mean, I think many years ago I can remember the Labour Party calling for it to change. But then, of course, now they're in power. So they won't do that. Well, they all do that, don't they?
Not at all. They do. And, of course, historically, first past the post has worked for the Labour Party better than anyone else. You only have to go back to 2001, 2005. Blair was getting massive landslide election victories on a very small number of the population and the actual voting public voting for him. So I think it will be a discussion over the next few years. But Labour, of course, are never going to touch a system which works for them so well. Being somebody on the right, I think this poses a particular challenge going forward. We saw the Tories get 24%, Reform get 14%. It is clearly not sustainable to have both parties of the right effectively cancelling each other out and letting Labour through with these massive majorities.
You say letting Labour through, but you, I know, are an ex-Tory person. You probably still are conservative in your views, but the Conservative Party were not conservative. They did not appear to subscribe to conservative views. In fact, most people would say they were liberal. Others would even say that they'd gone to the left. And, in fact, the Labour Party are more right than the Conservatives. So, let's be honest here. They didn't deserve the vote. So why should the public vote for them just for fear of a Labour Party getting in?
No, I absolutely see where you're coming from there. I mean, the short fact of the matter is, Nana, they were not Conservative, I'm afraid. Boris won this huge victory, especially on the backs of working-class Brexiteers, places like my old patch, Blackpool, voting for Boris to get Brexit done. But they also voted for things such as levelling up. They voted for immigration to be reduced, and whichever way you look, I'm afraid the government have let people down on different issues in different parts of the country, and that's why so many former Tories have voted for Reform. And one thing which has really annoyed me over the last few weeks has been Conservative candidates and MPs almost blaming Nigel Farage and blaming Reform voters for this Labour victory. Well, that's not the case at all, I'm afraid. The issue is sort your own house out, get your own house in order, and then people will vote for an inspiring Conservative message.
So who should lead? Because obviously Rishi Sunak has stepped down. There was no point. He's embarrassed himself in a sense. I appreciate the fact that he worked very hard, but what he did to Boris and what they all did to Boris, I think the British public just looked at that and thought, I don't like the look of that. Even if you're going to get rid of a leader, you do it not like that. It was just horrible.
Well, I used to have so many people, Nana, in Blackpool who said, I've voted Conservative, I've voted for Boris, I voted for you, but I can't vote for Rishi because he stabbed somebody in the back. And it was almost like he wanted the position of Prime Minister so desperately, and yet when he inherited the job through getting rid of Boris, he didn't have a plan. And over the last 18 months, what on earth have we seen in terms of a Conservative agenda coming forward? He stabilised the economy, but he didn't do anything else. And I'm afraid just talking about tax cuts, talking about stopping the votes, but without actually doing those things is not good enough. And that's exactly the reason why the Conservatives got punished so badly.
So who should lead?
Well, the big question is, I think, the degree to which the Conservative Party now needs to work with Nigel Farage and work with the Reform Party. Just blaming Farage and blaming Reform voters for this election isn't good enough. Tories need to listen to people who deserted them on Thursday and understand those reasons why. And I think that needs to be the whole discussion of this debate.
They have had plenty of time to work that out. And
how do we unite the right? Because that's the only way we're ever going to win an election.
I personally don't think that the Tory party will survive. I think that they have embarrassed themselves in such a manner that nobody could vote for them again. I mean, after all the changing of leaders, changing of ministers, changing of this, changing of that, fighting amongst themselves, the five families that... Oh, please. I can't be doing it. Forget it. No. And then even that last bit, they were going to actually change the leader again before the election until somebody had to tell them don't be so stupid. But look, Scott, lastly, Keir Starmer has just had a press conference. He didn't ask GB News, allow us to ask a question.
Well, I hope that's not a sign of things to come. I really, really do, because you're a brilliant part of the media ecosystem. I mean, you've given people like me who shout at the Sky News, BBC, because they're not representative of the British people. You've really given an avenue for people to watch a station which is so interactive, so fresh and emerging with its content. So I really do hope he's not going to continue in this path. And, of course, with everything else around Ofcom as well, it's a particularly worrying time. But ironically, I think more GB News probably voted Labour than Conservative actually on Thursday. So the idea that there's no Labour viewers to this channel is ridiculous, and I think Keir Starmer maybe needs to bear that in mind a bit more in future.
I think so as well. Scott, so very briefly, you've got about 10 seconds. What are you doing now? What's your thing?
I'm enjoying life, just looking at some different opportunities for the future, but I will always be incredibly passionate about politics and different causes, so I will be continuing to pursue them, hopefully, in the months ahead as well.
Lovely. Well, we'll invite you back as well, because it sounds like you've got time on your hands, like about 200 of your mates.
I will look forward to it.
That is former MP Scott Benton. This was Political Spotlight. Stay tuned. My panel will be up next. And, of course, Nana's Niggle. Do not go anywhere.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend is sunny spells with some of us, scattered showers around, but still feeling cool. We've got low pressure generally in charge. That's moving its way eastwards, and northwesterly winds giving that cool feel for the time of year. So through this afternoon, any showers gradually easing later on, so turning dry across parts of England in towards the southeast, but showers still continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland before further showers come in from the southwest. Temperatures tonight, though, under the clear spells, 10 or 11 degrees, but feeling fresher across parts of rural Scotland. So to start Sunday morning, there will be some drier and brighter weather around, especially across eastern parts to start the day. But further towards the southwest, we've got a focus for some heavy showers moving in from the south, heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder, and coming into northwestern parts of England as well. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers as well, just into coastal areas, but across parts of Scotland, a little bit drier with plenty of sunshine, just some rain coming to Orkney and Shetland to start the day. So as we go through Sunday, showers continuing, but actually becoming more widespread as we go through into the afternoon. Heavy at times, containing the odd rumble of thunder too. Across Scotland, dry here with some sunnier spells and lighter winds for many of us as well. So that will help with the temperatures, giving a slightly warmer feel where you do catch any sunshine. And across parts of Scotland, temperatures recovering up around to 15 degrees. Sunday evening then we'll start to see showers fading away, turning drier with some late evening sunshine. But another area of low pressure is coming in towards the southwest. So as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday generally unsettled, but temperatures may be recovering just slightly.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far, and it could be yours. Phil was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox. I just looked at my account and thought, oh my God, yeah, it's true, it's gone into my account. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mark Dolan Tonight. Weekends from 9 p.m.
As he turns 80 next month, Thomas Markle gives a moving interview to the Mail newspaper saying, "I've never been one for birthdays, but I know the one person I most want to hear from, Meghan, will not be in touch. I'd love to meet my grandchildren," he said, "but I'd be happy with a photograph at this stage." Well, for reaction to this sad story, I'm delighted to welcome US political and royal commentator Hilary Fordwich.
He also added that he never thought that he'd have something in common with the king. And of course, the king doesn't know his grandchildren either. And I think that's a very sad state of affairs. What is very important, the important thread here, though, is the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of Meghan Markle claiming to care about people and all the tours they go on where they have empathy for people, and yet her very own father. And also, Mark, it really happened so fast. In 2016, she posted on Instagram that her daddy was the greatest in the world. And the other thing is that she claimed that she had made everything herself and she came from a very poor family. Actually, she had a very privileged childhood, being sent to private schools in California.
Well, poor old Thomas Markle, as he approaches his 80th birthday, is a serious thorn in the side and, frankly, an ongoing embarrassment to the couple.
Yes, and I think that one of the things that's immensely sad is that, Meghan Markle wasn't happy to be number 2 to Princess Catherine, and now she ends up being really nothing. I do think that a tiger doesn't change its stripes. What we have to look at here is track record. Somebody who's dumped her friends, dumped her own family, dumped her country originally when she came over to the UK, and even her adopted dog. There is a track record there, and Thomas Markle has sadly said it's referred to now as being markled when you're dumped.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, coming up, loads of things still to come. Joining me in a few moments' time, Lizzie Cundy and also Matthew Laza. We'll be discussing all the latest topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. Joining me in a few moments' time, the fabulous Lizzie Cundy and also Matthew Laza. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? The Labour Party win a landslide victory, picking up 410 seats, but is our electoral system unfair to smaller parties, leading to disproportionate representation? Then, in difficult conversations, I'll be joined by the most tattooed woman in the UK, Becky Holt. You won't believe how much she spent. Take a guess how many she has. Closest answer wins. This is her as Sunak resigns. We've got Conservatives receiving the worst support for their party in history. Who will be the next to lead them? But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda is now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the Prime Minister ruled out the controversial scheme, which had failed to deport a single migrant. He also said Labour's election victory has given them a clear mandate to govern in all four corners of the United Kingdom.
Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent, almost the opposite, because everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%.
The leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has reacted by claiming Labour will struggle to deal with the issue of illegal immigration.
Well, he said he would do it. At least he's kept a promise, I suppose. Look, Rwanda was never going to work. What Keir Starmer is proposing, which is to, tackle the gangs, well, frankly, the last government were doing that for the last few years. It's not going to work. At the minute, it's wild and windy, but we do have some pretty strong first-hand accounts that as soon as we get a calm spell, they'll be crossing the English Channel in their thousands. And let's face it, Keir Starmer does not have a plan to deal with it.
Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GBNews that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seat, Godalming and Ash, and has previously tried twice to become Conservative leader. Meanwhile, Suella Braverman has failed to rule herself out, simply saying there were no announcements. In other news, police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife, a journey which would have taken him around 11 hours. Police called off the official search last week, but Slater's mother says they will stay on the island to look for him. In the US, President Biden is refusing to take a cognitive test to determine if he's in mental decline. In an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, he also dismissed calls for some Democrats to step aside and let a younger candidate take on Republican Donald Trump. Biden has been attempting to defuse the political crisis over his shaky debate performance. He claims he simply had a bad night.
Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do.
The government has announced a new support package for Caribbean countries affected by the destruction of Hurricane Beryl. New Foreign Secretary David Lammy has increased funding up to £500,000. The money will be used to help those whose homes and livelihoods have been impacted by the Category 5 hurricane. The aid package also includes hundreds of emergency shelter kits capable of supporting up to 4,000 people. As you've been hearing today, the Prince of Wales is set to attend England's clash against Switzerland in the Euros quarter-finals today. The Prince, who's the president of the FA, will be cheering on Gareth Southgate's side in Dusseldorf as they hope to secure a place in the semi-finals. England fans have been gathering in Dusseldorf ahead of that clash. Switzerland haven't beaten the Three Lions in the past 13 attempts since 1981. Kick-off is in an hour's time. And Andy Murray has been denied a final Wimbledon match after Emma Raducanu pulled out of their mixed doubles clash with stiffness in her wrist. The 37-year-old Scot and former world #1 made his final appearance on Thursday when he lost alongside older brother Jamie in the men's doubles. He'll head off on holiday now before preparing for the final event of his career at the Olympics in Paris. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, welcome on board. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's just coming up to 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. So today we got the first major press conference from Sir Keir Starmer, who promised to be the government for all, even if you didn't vote for him or it was your first time.
Some 80% of British voters didn't vote for you. That's including those who didn't vote at all. What does that mean in practice, in a sense, for the culture of the government and how you'll govern?
It was very important to me to say what I said on the steps yesterday about those that didn't vote for us, because we're a government of service to all people, whether they voted for us or not. And I include within that people who voted Labour for the first time on Thursday.
So that was Keir Starmer earlier today. Let's hope it was just an oversight that they didn't do a question with GB News. Now, Keir Starmer is now primus inter pares, first among equals, and is picking his cabinet.
If you voted Labour yesterday, we will carry the responsibility of your trust as we rebuild our country. But whether you voted Labour or not, in fact, especially if you did not, I say to you directly, my government will serve you. Politics can be a force for good. We will show that. We've changed the Labour Party, returned it to service, and that is how we will govern. Country first, party second.
Angela Rayner was the first to stroll into number 10, retaining her position as deputy leader. She also becomes levelling up secretary, more like levelling down. She was previously pushing to end zero-hours contracts. Hope she has a rethink on that one. Rachel Reeves, the first female chancellor, she played chess from an early age. Apparently, her father taught her the key moves. By the time she was in secondary school, she was a national champion. Now, I used to play chess. It makes you very strategic. Yvette Cooper becomes Home Secretary. She's married to Ed Balls, who can often be seen sitting smugly next to Susanna Reid. Both he and his wife Yvette are veterans of New Labour. They are all but scrapped Rwanda. That's been the first thing. David Lammy, Foreign Secretary. Clearly, a woman is foreign to him.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix, David?
I don't know if it's transphobic, but it's not accurate, Nick. I mean, obviously, it's probably the case that only that trans women don't have ovaries, but a cervix, I understand, is something that you can have following various procedures.
A cervix is the neck of a womb, so unless you've got a womb, you can't make a neck for it. Others include Pat McFadden. He is one of the few members of the new cabinet that has experience serving in government. None of the others have so far. They have been in the opposition for that long. Under Gordon Brown, Pat served as Parliamentary Under-Secretary at the Cabinet Office and later as a Minister in the Business Department. Shabana Mahmood will be serving as Justice Secretary. Now, she became the first female Muslim in the House of Commons when she was elected in 2010, but has clashed with Keir Starmer on Gaza, was Streeting, who before politics openly tweeted about Jeanne Moir. Plus, he had that issue with Suzanne Hall, where he made the comments about white supremacists, presuming that we're the ones that are voting for her. But on the plus side, he's acknowledged that he was wrong on the trans debate and is looking to reform the NHS. I sincerely hope he succeeds. Bridget Phillipson, who once starred in the background for Michael Grove, by the way, she becomes the Education Secretary, although perhaps she could learn to answer a few questions like that on private schools. And Ed Miliband became the Energy Secretary, which is fitting, really, because he sort of reminds me of one of those creature comforts. Remember those? Our political editor, Chris Hope, asked him about his plans.
Good to see you, Miliband. What are your plans for government?
Lots of exciting.
You're going to axe gas boilers?
GB News viewers will love it, Chris.
We're loving it. We love it already.
You love GB Energy at GB News.
We love GB Energy, or if it works for the viewers.
Ask how much our bills are going up, Chopper.
Enjoying government. You excited? What are your plans then for government?
Excited, but we're going to have our first cabinet meeting and then we'll tell you a little bit.
OK. There we have it. Ed Miliband thinks that GB News is going to enjoy his government. We'll wait and see on that one, shall we?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest here. The Labour Party at this stage were the only credible alternative. Yes, a massive majority is worrying as it gives you total control. But as we saw with Conservatives, they squandered theirs. After the disaster of the Tories, surely no one can be worse. So before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? Labour and Sir Keir Starmer have won the general election, picking up 410 seats at 9.6 million total votes. This is as our electoral system is first past the post. But is it unfair that smaller parties who lead to disproportionate representation should get so few seats? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? Then at 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time. Royal biographer until 11 will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, the mother of a US war hero killed in Afghanistan has criticised the decision to give Prince Harry an award honouring her dead son. Meghan Markle also has reportedly completed filming her upcoming Netflix show, which would celebrate the joys of cooking, gardening and friendship. Really? And then at 5, it's this week's Difficult Conversations. The UK's most tattooed woman, Becky Holt, will be in the studio as she's transformed her body into a living canvas, spending, well, somewhere in the region of £30,000 to £40,000. But how many tattoos has she got? Closest answer wins. That's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email or post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel former Labour advisor Matthew Larser.
Good afternoon.
And also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Right, I'm going to come to you, Matthew Larser. Your great party have won.
Absolutely, yes.
How do you feel about it?
Well, look, I'm absolutely delighted, and I'm very pleased about the scale of the victory in terms of seats, because it means there's a good majority in the Commons and we can push through things like reforming the NHS, which, as you say, are so important. But I think the party needs to be acutely conscious that although it's got a huge number of seats, it didn't get a huge percentage of the vote, and that's why I'm so pleased that Keir yesterday, in his very first remarks outside Downing Street, and he's repeated them in the press conference this morning, made it clear that it's about governing for the whole country. Yeah. Those who didn't vote, and there were quite a lot of those, and those who voted for other parties as well. So I think the government needs to have that in its mind. It needs to listen to those Labour voters who voted reform. It also, and it needs to have a clear strategy. It's all about delivery. So, but I'm still happy, although I haven't slept that much since Thursday night.
So why then did Keir Starmer not give GBNews the opportunity to ask him a question?
Honestly, that would just be an oversight. There's no issue with GBNews.
Yeah,
no. I don't know because I wasn't in the room this morning. But I mean, he's given lots of interviews to GBNews. He's, as you saw there, Ed and Johnny Reynolds were engaging with Chris Hope, our political editor. So
he might have been being sarcastic.
I will have a word. No. Well, I mean, look. I mean,
you have a
Chris,
word?
I will definitely have a word.
Because our viewers and our GBNews people poll put Labour. They said they were going to vote Labour, and these are people that he said some of them would have been voting Labour for the first time, and his comment was that he would also take care of people.
Absolutely. And me and Gloria De Piero, we're there telling them that they've got to speak to us. And they do, mostly.
And if you see Keir Starmer, can you tell him to put a bit more zest into his speeches? His first speech as Prime Minister, I nearly fell asleep yet again. And let's not forget, this man, 80% didn't actually vote for him. And Starmer's own seat dropped by 16,000. And throughout that speech, outside number 10, he actually looked at his notes 158 times.
And
I did. And that means actually every 2.8 seconds he looked at his notes. That worries me for our Prime Minister.
You look at your
because,
notes.
I'm looking at facts and figures. He's our Prime Minister. Can I tell you something? You look at how Nigel Farage does it. He never uses an autocue. The only one that never used an autocue with all that's gone on. And he himself got 21,225 votes. Keir Starmer's dropped by 16,000 in his own constituency. So it isn't quite the greatness. I mean, his approval rating is just 8%, one of the lowest ever of our Prime Ministers.
But let's be honest, there really wasn't anybody positioned to do this job.
But this was, in my eyes, a punishment election. You look what happened in Scotland. They voted for Labour because they were so disillusioned by the SNP. You know, many I speak to that were usual Conservative voters totally disillusioned by the Tory party and Rishi Sunak. This was a punishment election. And look at Reform. Nigel Farage came in with only, 4 weeks and 5 days and won 4 million votes. Now, I've got to say,
it's an impressive achievement,
phenomenal.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, nobody can take away from how Nigel transformed the election campaign.
The Liberal Democrats got fewer votes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're going to
came away with 71 seats.
Yeah, and I know we're going to discuss the voting system in a bit, but I mean, I think that what you saw was, yes, absolutely, people in areas where the Liberal Democrats were second voted Liberal Democrat. In areas where Labour was the challenger, they voted Labour. In Scotland, Labour had a very strong performance because the SNP government. I think you're right, Lizzie. The government needs to be aware that it needs to govern for the whole country and not just those who vote for it. But frankly, I think that's a good thing, because if the government's got in mind that it's not just looking to its own supporters, as Keir says ad nauseum, it's about putting country before party, and that is not a bad way of running a country, because I think we've seen too much of the reverse over the last few years.
But Matthew, aren't you worried that he's brought back in Ed Miliband? Please, one of our biggest disasters. Let's just hope he doesn't eat a bacon sandwich.
Well, I was brought in to make sure he never ate a bacon sandwich near a camera again.
That is surely
admission
of failure. Look what happened with bringing back David Cameron.
Yeah, well, look, he's given Ed a very specific role, which is, on energy, which is what Ed has worked on in government before. It's and his number one task of getting great British energy going to ensure that we keep the lights on and we have energy security.
Doesn't he remind you of one of those, the ones that when it's nice and warm?
Who used to do the electricity ad, yeah?
Electricity is like going and we love it. And then there were these little turtle or sort of creatures are talking like that.
Here's the thing about Ed Miliband is you're absolutely right. That's what. But when I spent a lot of time, no, I mean, he would even say. I mean, I think somebody gave him a mug when we were on the campaign trail, one and on. But when you're with Ed, and as I was on a lot of railway stations, a lot of streets in the 2015 election campaigning, people come up to you and say he's a lot taller than you think. He's exactly my height. We're exactly the same height. He's the tallest man ever to lead the Labour Party. He's taller than Keir.
Oh, really?
Really?
You're not even that tall. Well, listen, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win the biggest cash prize so far, £30,000. It is totally tax-free, which means that you'll get the lot to do whatever you like. Now, here are all the details you need for your chance to become our next big winner.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, Royal Roundup time. Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. Next, though, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? I've got a poll up right now on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote now.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In World War I, 309 men from Britain and the Commonwealth never came home because they'd been shot at dawn. The majority were killed for desertion, cowardice and sleeping at post. Appearing at their court-martials and told they'd brought shame on their country, these men had no opportunity to defend themselves and were executed by a firing squad. The National Memorial Arboretum launched a fundraising campaign to restore the memorial, which has stood for more than 20 years.
thank you to your viewers for their support for the fundraising campaign. And thanks to the generosity of so many people, we've been able to replace all 309 of the posts that represent those young men that were shot in the First World War, restoration of this really precious memorial.
The centrepiece of the memorial is the young soldier, blindfolded and facing his execution. In September 1916, Private Harry Farr was ordered to the front. Already suffering from shell shock, he was overwhelmed and refused his orders. He was court-martialed, and in a trial lasting only 20 minutes, he was sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, he faced the firing squad without a blindfold. Janet Booth is Private Farr's granddaughter and was part of the public campaign to have those who were shot at dawn officially pardoned.
When I asked my gran, do you know where I could find Harry's grave? And she looked at my mother, and there was this sort of look between them, and then she said, well, he hasn't got a grave because they didn't warrant, he deserved one because he was shot as a coward and had let his country down. We can come here as a family and pay our respects to him, and also for all the other families, it's somewhere to come and remember their loved ones.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, 23 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News, or 4 o'clock even. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio, and it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, the Labour Party has won a landslide majority in the 2024 general election. Now, Labour won, taking 33.9% of votes across the country, winning 412 seats. The number keeps changing, picking up more than 9.6 million total votes. Now, the Conservatives took a 20-point drop, from 2019, winning 121 seats, picking up less than 6.8 million votes. And Rishi Sunak held his seat but left Downing Street packing. Now, despite winning just 5 seats, Reform UK took 14% of the vote and the third best party vote share with 4 million votes overall, whilst the Liberal Democrats lagged behind Reform on 12% of the vote, but picking up just less than 3.5 million with 71 seats. So a new record for them, of course, but they got fewer votes, but yet so many more seats. The Greens, SNP and Plaid Cymru receiving less than 3 million total votes between them. But let's break down the first-past-the-post electoral system. Each constituency elects one representative. Voters pick one candidate, and the candidate with the most votes wins. Simple as that. However, it can be unfair to smaller parties and lead to disproportionate representation, with many calling our voting system outdated and not fit for purpose. Not to mention 2024, which was undoubtedly the lowest turnout election since 2001. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? Well, joining me now, James Mathewson, former Labour Party spokesperson, Joanne Nadler, former aide to David Cameron, and Norman Baker, former Liberal Democrat minister. I'm going to start with you. James Mathewson, you got a very small proportion of the votes, really, yet you've got such a large number of seats. Does it feel a bit unfair?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get them, first and foremost, Nana, and I'm not in the party anymore,
Oh, sorry.
so they're not my votes. I'm sure I would have got even less than that if it was up to me. But I do think you're absolutely right. There is this question, and in the Labour Party, it's been brought to the surface more recently as well. Things like Labour Party conference, there is normally a motion every single year at Labour Party conference for the party to consider this electoral reform and looking at systems like proportional representation. Now, of course, the argument that's always been pushed back is that in 2011, obviously, there was the vote on this and that it didn't pass. So they've always thought that it's best to stick with it. But, I mean, there's no denying that the reason for that is because it benefits the Labour Party and it benefits the Tory Party. Now, I'm thrilled with the Labour result, and I'm thrilled with the fact we've got a new government that I'm sure, and I'm sincerely hoping, will stick to its values and change Britain for the better. But it isn't fair, when it comes to democracy. And I do think it would be nice to see the Labour Party make some reforms in that direction that aren't in its own best interests. That would give the general population, I think, a big boost of reassurance.
Yeah. Well, Keir Starmer did say people first, party second, or party second, people first, or country first, and I don't know, one way or the other. But the point of the matter was he did direct it that we are in charge. So perhaps that would be an interesting notion, and perhaps he should consider it, Joanne. Do you think maybe he should?
Well, I think it's very generous of James to make that offer. But I'm afraid I remain very unconvinced of the need for electoral reform. And I fear that a lot of people on the right are now going to get into a debate about process rather than really concentrating on ideas, and why it's been that the Conservatives have proved to be so unpopular during the course of this election and increasingly over the last few years. I think that there are some issues to raise about our electoral system, primarily, really, whether we need to have postal votes distributed so readily in the way that we do. There's a danger with postal votes, of course, that you break that very important principle, which is of the secret ballot. But if you're talking about electoral reform in terms of some kind of proportional representation, then what I would say is our British first-past-the-post system has generally served us very well in terms of creating a lot of stability in the system. There is no perfect electoral system, and I think we should be very wary about rushing to change something which enables parties to form coalitions within themselves, and then to a certain extent to push to the margins some of the more extreme elements that can enter in directly into the parliamentary system if we go down a proportional route.
But they're not really extreme, are they? I mean, you can hardly call reform extreme. And when 4 million...
Nana,
so you don't mean them, you just mean extreme elements?
I didn't mention
think
but from what you're saying, I'm just surmising what you're saying. That you're saying that
you're wrongly surmising it. You're putting words into my mouth. I'm far more concerned about some of.
Well, I've not actually finished what I was saying. I actually only said a few words, and then you never let me get to the end. But what I was saying was, from what you're saying, I'm deducing that you're suggesting that if we change the electoral system, more extreme parties will come to the forefront and will have more control. Is that the point you're making? I think that's the point you're making, isn't it?
I think it's possible that now, when we look at some of the parties that have sprung up over the Israel-Gaza question, who have taken votes away from Labour, I would prefer for that particular influence to be on the outside of the mainstream. I certainly wasn't making any statement at all about reform, who've shown themselves in a very short time more than capable of actually winning seats in the first-past-the-post system. Now, of course, I can quite understand why
they should have won more.
They've been going effectively in this guise for 4 weeks. So the fact they were able to win 5, I think, reflects very, very well on reform. And yes, you're absolutely right. There is an apparent injustice in the number of votes that they won versus, for instance, the Liberal Democrats. But the Liberal Democrats have been working for years.
But that's not the point. No, but you can work as many years as you like. If you get fewer votes, a lot of people would say you shouldn't get more seats. Really interesting, John. I've got to bring Norman Baker in. Norman, do you think it's fair? I mean, you guys got loads of seats and you got less votes than Reform.
Well, don't pick on us, because the number of seats we've got is still under the number we should have if proportional representation were in place. In fact, if you look at the Guardian today, there's an interesting bar graph. The Conservatives, the Lib Dems, the SNP, Reform, Green Party all got fewer seats than they should do based on the number of votes cast for them. The only party that got more seats than they should have got was the Labour Party. The Labour Party got a third of the vote and 2/3 of the seats. That's pretty indefensible.
Yeah.
We have to change the system. The Lib Dems have been arguing for changes for years. I'm delighted that others now coming on board to take our case up. But, the Tory and Labour parties together got just over half the vote. 56%. We are no longer in a two-party system. First past the post works okay when there's two parties. There's not two parties. There's a multitude of parties now, and those who are not Labour or Tory get discriminated against, and that cannot be right.
Yeah, frankly, it just seems wrong, and I just want equal representation for the votes that are given out there.
Exactly.
And it doesn't seem fair that, as you said, 2/3 of the seats, yet only 1/3 of the vote, and it's not really a two-party system anymore at all. But
Exactly,
will Keir Starmer, the question is, will Keir Starmer go along with his own mandate? He said, party second, country first. So country first, I think if we all demand it, well, how about a referendum on that? Listen, Norman Baker, thank you very much. Joanne Nadler, I've got to go to... Sorry, very briefly, you've got 10 seconds, I've got to go to the news.
What I would say is that the unions and others in the Labour Party recognise the value of PR. I hope now that they've got power, they've got an opportunity to introduce it. That would be fair.
I think that probably would be fair. James Matthews, thank you very much, former Labour Party spokesperson. Joanne Nadler, lovely to talk to you, former aide to David Cameron, and also Norman Baker, former Liberal Democrat Minister. Sorry, did you want to say something briefly, Joanne?
Just very briefly, I wasn't an aide to David Cameron. A long time ago, we were colleagues, but I wasn't an aide to David Cameron.
Oh, heads will roll. I'll have a word with them about that. Thank you very much for that. We'll correct it. Thank you. Really good to talk to you. Right, so those are their thoughts. What are yours? Stay tuned. Loads still to come here on GB News. I'm Nana Akua. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? We'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? You know the thoughts of my panel, Matthew Larson and Lizzie Cundy, still to come. My difficult conversation. The UK's most tattooed woman, Becky Holt, will be here live to tell us about how she's transformed her entire body into a living canvas. And take a guess how many tattoos she has. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. The top stories this hour. Sir Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda is now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the Prime Minister ruled out the controversial scheme which had failed to deport a single migrant. He also said Labour's election victory has given them a clear mandate to govern in all four corners of the United Kingdom. Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GB News that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seat, Godalming and Ash, and has previously tried twice to become Conservative leader. Police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife, a journey which would have taken him around 11 hours. Police called off the official search last week, but Slater's mother says they will stay on the island to look for him. The Prince of Wales is set to attend England's clash against Switzerland in the Euro quarter-finals today. The Prince, who's the president of the FA, will be cheering on Gareth Southgate's side in Dusseldorf as they hope to secure a place in the semi-finals. England fans have been gathering in Dusseldorf ahead of that clash. Switzerland haven't beaten the Three Lions in the past 13 attempts since 1981. Kick-off is in under half an hour's time. And Andy Murray has been denied a final Wimbledon match after Emma Raducanu pulled out of their mixed doubles clash with stiffness in her wrist. The 37-year-old Scot made his final appearance at Wimbledon on Thursday when he lost alongside older brother Jamie in the men's doubles. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Right, coming up, Royal Roundup time. Royal biographer Angela Levin will be live to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. But next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is it time for electoral reform? Now, I've got a poll up right now on X asking you that very question. Is it time for electoral reform? Send me your views, post your comments, gbnews.com/yoursay.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend is sunny spells for some of us, scattered showers around, but still feeling cool. We've got low pressure generally in charge. That's moving its way eastwards, and northwesterly winds giving that cool feel for the time of year. So through this afternoon, any showers gradually easing later on, so turning dry across parts of England in towards the southeast, but showers still continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland Island before further showers come in from the southwest. Temperatures tonight, though, under the clear spells, 10 or 11 degrees, but feeling fresher across parts of rural Scotland. So to start Sunday morning, there will be some drier and brighter weather around, especially across eastern parts to start the day. But further towards the southwest, we've got a focus for some heavy showers moving in from the south, heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder, and coming into northwestern parts of England as well. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers as well, just into coastal areas, but across parts of Scotland, a little bit drier with plenty of sunshine, just some rain coming to Orkney and Shetland to start the day. So as we go through Sunday, showers continuing, but actually becoming more widespread as we go through into the afternoon. Heavy at times, containing the odd rumble of thunder too. Across Scotland, dry here with some sunnier spells and lighter winds for many of us as well. So that will help with the temperatures, giving a slightly warmer feel where you do catch any sunshine. And across parts of Scotland, temperatures recovering up around to 15 degrees. Sunday evening then we'll start to see showers fading away, turning drier with some late evening sunshine, but another area of low pressure is coming in towards the southwest. So as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday generally unsettled, but temperatures may be recovering just slightly.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back if you just tuned in. Where have you been? Right, it's time for the Great British Debate. So I'm Nana Akua, and this is coming up to 39 minutes after 4 o'clock. And I'm asking, the Labour Party has won a landslide majority in the 2024 general election. They took 33.9% of the votes across the country, winning 412 seats. So that was a third of the votes, but yet two-thirds of the seats within the House of Commons. They picked up more than 9.6 million votes, whereas the Reform Party picked up over 4 million. Yet they didn't have half the number of seats. The Conservatives took a minus 20-point drop from 2019. They won 121 seats, so that was 6.8 million votes. And, of course, Sunak kept his seat but is leaving Downing Street. And despite winning just 5 seats, Reform UK, 14.3% of the vote, the third best party vote share, but 4 million votes overall. The Lib Dems behind Reform, 12% of the vote share, but 3.5 million votes, 71 seats. How does that work? Greens, Plaid Cymru and got less than 3 million votes between them. So what do you think? Is it time to change the electoral system at all? I mean, like, joining me now, Matthew Laza and also Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie Cundy, what do you think?
I think it totally should be changed. It totally is outdated and, to me, it's corrupt. How can it be fair? Reform won 14% of the votes. They only got 5 seats. I mean, it's great they got 5 seats, but they should have got a lot more by getting 4 million votes. Yeah. The Lib Dems only got 12% of the share of the vote, yet they got less votes. 72 seats. This is why there was such a low turnout, the lowest turnout for 20 years, because some of my friends who I was very upset that didn't vote said, well, it's not fair because whoever we vote for, it's not going to really make a difference. And that is the worry. And I actually think it needs to be changed. But the Labour Party won't change it
Well,
now.
it feels like it's rigged, Matthew.
Well, I mean, you may be surprised, Lizzie, but I agree with you that I don't think the voting system is fair. The truth of the matter is I think the Labour Party is unlikely to change it because turkeys don't vote for Christmas, and they've now got 400 odd MPs, not all of whom would survive under PR.
Yeah, but
actually, it's Labour policy to change it, but it's always ignored.
Well, exactly. I was going to say it was their policy to change it, and also he said, "Country first, party second."
Yeah. So look,
the country. We should have a referendum on this.
Absolutely. Well, we had a referendum. Nobody in 2011 on a change in the voting system, which was part of the deal with the Lib Dems and the Tories, and almost nobody voted in. Did you vote for change, Lizzie?
Do you know what? I would now. I didn't then, but I was a very different person then. I probably even wanted to get back with my ex-husband. I'm a different person then. We need a referendum for this.
I would be perfectly in favour. We could campaign together, Lizzie. It might be the only time.
Well, actually, it would
be
the
brilliant.
only time. But I think we need to, and also about the postal votes. I think there's a lot of corruption going on there, and I think unless it's a real necessity, you shouldn't be doing postal votes. You know, how do you know it's a secret ballot? I think it's all very dodgy and rigged.
Right, well, they think it's rigged. I think it should be changed. I think it's unfair, but this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome one of our great British voices, your opportunity to be on this show and tell us what you think about the topics we're discussing today. I've got Alexander Metcalf. He's there in Catterick. Hello, Xander. How are you doing?
Hi, Nana, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for doing this. So, first of all, what do you make of the result? Because, of course, Reform, over 4 million votes, but yet 5 seats, whereas the Liberal Democrats, 3.5 million and 71 seats. And, of course, it goes on with the other parties as well.
Absolutely. I think it's always important in politics to mention some figures. I think you've mentioned some already, but I've just got some on the top of my head. So Reform got 4.1 million votes in this election, and they equated to 5 seats. Liberal Democrats got 3.5 million votes, and that equated to 71 seats. In 98 constituencies, the Reform Party finished second, and the Labour Party had a vote share of 35%. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, that's lower than what they had under Corbyn in 2017 and 2019. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they have a real mandate to govern.
Yeah, well, a lot of people feel that it's a bit unfair. But having said that, now we are where we are. We have to deal with it. What are your views on the Labour Party being those to lead this country? And also, you mentioned Reform as well. You voted for the first time, and I know you voted Reform. What are your thoughts on Labour leading the United Kingdom?
Unfortunately, under first past the post, we create a two-party system. So unfortunately, although I'm not very happy myself, Labour are really the only credible opposition. I don't trust Keir Starmer as a leader. I think he's more of a lawyer. He doesn't have much charisma. He's quite boring, to put it bluntly. I can't make policies. I know today they said that.
Listen, Xander, your line.
Of course, they've scrapped the Rwanda plan because Rishi
your
couldn't
line.
do it. Because obviously they faced.
Your line's breaking up, Xander. We're really sorry, so we'll have to leave it there. But Alexander, but he likes to be called Xander. Oh. Yes, I do know that. Yes, we met him actually yesterday at the at Rishi Sunak's constituency. Very eloquent young man, 19, first time he'd voted. Now, of course, the electoral system isn't corrupt because that's the way we do it in
absolutely.
this country. But
it's
I do
unfair,
understand
but it's not
that
corrupt,
people feel that it's not. It's weighted in a different way, so therefore it doesn't seem to work.
But I do feel, I mean, we need to get the younger generation out there voting. It's great to see him and interested in politics, but it's a worry when people aren't voting because they're thinking, will it actually make a difference?
Well, that's the point, is it? Will it make a difference indeed? Well, listen, stay tuned. This is GB News live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, difficult conversations. The most tattooed woman in the UK, Becky Holt. She'll be live to give us her story about her body transformation. Next, at 11, we'll be here in my Royal Roundup to give us the latest from behind the palace walls.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
How deep is the rift between Prince William and Prince Harry? Well, it's been reported that Prince William is refusing to speak to Prince Harry and has even taken on the role of disciplinarian, which was once, of course, the job of Prince Philip. But has that job gone now to William?
After the death of his mother, I know that Prince William had to think again. And then we see him with the Emperor and Empress of Japan. And William thought again, do I want to do this job? Because there's nothing in our uncodified, unwritten constitution that says anybody has to be heir to the throne. And he thought about it. He was only 15 at the time. And he decided he did, and he's done his duty, in great contrast to Prince Harry. Now, I don't think there's any chance at all of there being a reconciliation with the brothers now or in the foreseeable future. It goes back to Oprah Winfrey interview, then the book Spare, and all the things that were said in the Netflix 6-part series. Too much bad blood, and William is not going to forgive that. Principally because he, of course, and his wife attacked personally his wife, Kate. And even when the announcement of her cancer was made, their mealy-mouthed response to it didn't show any great concern to her.
Okay.
Because William looks at them and he would say what most people would say. All of this is completely unnecessary. It is unnecessary. Prince Harry has had a wonderful, privileged life. He owes everything to being a member of the royal family. People who are struggling, people who are battling, would wonder why he's so upset.
The People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes, she could have said storm.
You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Now, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week's been no different. And every Saturday, I like to give you a rundown, and who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin. Angela,
hello.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Right, what have we got today?
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is Harry, which is always pleasing for you. Harry and Meghan like gathering awards, right? But there's a big trouble with his latest one. This one is to honour Pat Tillman, an American football hero who earned about £3 million a year and gave it all up to fight after 9/11.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he died in 2014. And this...
So he was killed in Afghanistan?
Yes, he was... No, yes, but by a friendly...
Yeah.
Killer, so it wasn't. And Spy gives out annual awards for excellence in sports, and decided that they would give the award to Harry for his work with Invictus Games. Now, his mother Mary, Tillam's mother Mary, is absolutely furious, and she just doesn't want him to do it. And she says, just one sentence, why would they select such a controversial and divisive individual to receive the award? She's very annoyed about it. She doesn't want him to do it. And there's now about 600,000 people who are signing a thing saying he shouldn't do it.
So he shouldn't pick up that award, yeah?
Yes. Now, if he was a real gentleman, I think he would give it back. But they actually, he and Meghan love these awards. One of them was for Ripple of Hope, Kerry, daughter of Robert Kennedy, for dealing with human rights, promoting racial equality. And this was really for racism in the royal family.
I remember it, yes.
Yet there isn't any racism in the royal family.
And that was according to Harry when he spoke to Tom Bradbury, yes.
Yes, and but he hasn't given that back. He's held it. And the one after that was Living Legend of Aviation, which he was a helicopter gunman, an assistant pilot, really, and not a real pilot, and several people high up in the military say this is not right. He shouldn't
was
get
it Sylvester Stallone that gave him the award as well? Or was it the other one?
No, I don't think so.
Sylvester Stallone.
But anyway, that's what he
goes
goes for, and I think it would be difficult to take away from him, which is... it'll be very difficult, actually. The mother's absolutely determined, and I think she's got a right. They didn't mention it to her, which was very rude, I think.
Yeah.
But moving on to Meghan, apparently, this is very recent, she's still genuinely hurt by how she was treated by the royal families. This is 4 years on. Hang on. And she wants to now at last sit down and talk through things. We know that means she wants the royal family, King Charles and everyone else, to make an apology. But they don't. The person who should apologise is really her, but they don't want that. And she's also trying to get Beatrice and Eugenie, who's on top of her list, to get people to help her sell her jams. And she's really hoping that King Charles might take one too. Now, I think that's a try.
How do we know that, though? Do we know that?
Well, it comes from quite a good source. But actually, that would be her excuse to go there, that she wanted to make sure everything was nice. But it's also a way of selling her products.
Well, maybe Meghan is actually beginning to think, OK, we need to try and, bridge some upset and try and... I'd like to see them all reunite and all be nice to each other.
No, I think that's because they're getting so unpopular that they need the royals to sort of boost them up, because people aren't interested in them anymore, and I think that's the difficulty there. Now, William, who's adorable, he's bought himself an electric scooter, and he was seen yesterday, whizzing round Windsor Castle. And apparently this is his eco-conscious operating, and so he doesn't want to drive there. And he goes in and talks to his father. They have lots of meetings and discussions, and they help each other. And he has to go 3 miles from where they live, and he goes by electric scooter. And there's a lovely picture of him in the paper zooming around.
There he is. We're showing it on the
Good.
screen.
Zooming around. And I think to see that for the heir to the throne, you've seen so much amazing costumes and things that he's gone out with, and then actually the real man underneath zooming along with his electric scooter.
Well, I hope he doesn't hurt himself.
Well, I think he should have
he should be wearing a helmet.
Helmet on. But he's obviously enjoying it enormously, and of course it would take him no time. And it would be a lovely thing to do.
3 miles on an electric scooter.
Yeah. And the other thing is, as one of my favourite people are the Lady Louise, and she's got a boyfriend that she likes very much.
Nice.
And he came with her for carriage driving when she was second in a competition.
Who's Lady Louise? Who's she related to?
She is the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh now.
Oh, that's lovely.
And it's very nice that she's getting beautiful and happy, and hopefully she'll join the royal family and do some proper work for them.
All right, Angela Levin, thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you. That is royal biographer Angela Levin giving us the rundown. Stay tuned, loads more still to come, including my difficult conversation. Do not go anywhere.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend is sunny spells with some of us, scattered showers around but still feeling cool. We've got low pressure generally in charge, that's moving its way eastwards, and northwesterly winds giving that cool feel for the time of year. So through this afternoon, any showers gradually easing later on, so turning dry across parts of England in towards the southeast, but showers still continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland before further showers come in from the southwest. Temperatures tonight, though, under the clear spells, 10 or 11 degrees, but feeling fresher across parts of rural Scotland. So to start Sunday morning, there will be some drier and brighter weather around, especially across eastern parts to start the day. But further towards the southwest, we've got a focus for some heavy showers moving in from the south, heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder, and coming into northwestern parts of England as well. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers as well, just into coastal areas, but across parts of Scotland, a little bit drier with plenty of sunshine, just some rain coming to Orkney and Shetland to start the day. So as we go through Sunday, showers continuing but actually becoming more widespread as we go through into the afternoon. Heavy at times, containing the odd rumble of thunder too. Across Scotland, dry here with some sunnier spells and lighter winds for many of us as well. So that will help with the temperatures, giving a slightly warmer feel where you do catch any sunshine. And across parts of Scotland, temperatures recovering up around to 15 degrees. Sunday evening then, we'll start to see showers fading away, turning drier with some late evening sunshine. But another area of low pressure is coming in towards the southwest. So as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday generally unsettled, but temperatures may be recovering just slightly.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome. It's 5 o'clock. Welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. Coming up for this week's difficult conversation, I'm joined by Becky Holt. Now, she is the most tattooed woman in the UK. How many tattoos has she got? That's the question. Take a guess. Then, the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking who should lead the Tory party? And we'll be getting the latest from Germany. But first, let's get your latest news.
Nana, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories this hour. Sir Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda is now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the Prime Minister ruled out the controversial scheme, which had failed to deport a single migrant. He also said Labour's election victory has given them a clear mandate to govern in all four corners of the United Kingdom.
Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent, almost the opposite, because everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%.
The leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has reacted by claiming Labour will struggle to deal with the issue of illegal immigration.
Well, he said he would do it. At least he's kept a promise, I suppose. Look, Rwanda was never going to work. What Keir Starmer is proposing, which is to, tackle the gangs, well, frankly, the last government were doing that for the last few years. It's not going to work. At the minute, it's wild and windy, but we do have some pretty strong first-hand accounts that as soon as we get a calm spell, they'll be crossing the English Channel in their thousands. And let's face it, Keir Starmer does not have a plan to deal with it.
Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GB News that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seat, Godalming and Ash, and has previously tried twice to become Conservative leader. Meanwhile, Suella Braverman has failed to rule herself out, saying simply there are no announcements. In other news, police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife, a journey which would have taken around 11 hours. Police called off the official search last week, but Slater's mother says they will stay on the island to look for him. In the US, President Biden is refusing to take a cognitive test to determine if he's in a mental decline. In an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, he also dismissed calls from some Democrats to step aside and let a younger candidate take on the Republican Donald Trump. Biden has been attempting to defuse the political crisis over his shaky debate performance. He claims he simply had a bad night.
Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do.
The UK government has announced a new support package for Caribbean countries affected by the destruction of Hurricane Beryl. New Foreign Secretary David Lammy has increased funding up to £500,000. The money will be used to help those whose homes and livelihoods have been impacted by the Category 5 hurricane. And that aid package also includes hundreds of emergency shelter kits capable of supporting up to 4,000 people. Sport now, and England have just kicked off with Switzerland in the Euros football tournament. The Three Lions looking for a spot in the semi-finals. The Prince of Wales, who's also the FA president, is set to be in attendance at that quarter-final tie today. Switzerland haven't beaten England in the past 13 attempts since 1981. And the Princess of Wales has paid tribute to Andy Murray, saying he should be so very proud after he missed out on a final match at Wimbledon. The former world #1 Murray's Wimbledon career is now over after Emma Raducanu pulled out of their mixed doubles clash with stiffness in her wrist. The 37-year-old Scot made his final appearance at the All England Club on Thursday when he lost alongside older brother Jamie in the men's doubles. He'll head off on holiday with his family now before preparing for the final event of his career at the Olympics in Paris. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tatiana. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is author and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy and also former advisor to the Labour Party, Matthew Larser. Still to come, my difficult conversation today is with the most tattooed woman in the UK, Becky Holt. Slightly awkward there. She was recently in the spotlight for appearing on This Morning wearing a bikini next to the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Then stay tuned for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking who should lead the Tory party. It's as former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt rules himself out of the running. He's put his name in the hat in the 2019 and 22, but he told GB News that the time has passed for him to launch a bid. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. So it's just coming up to 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. It's time for this week's Difficult Conversations. Now, I'm joined by a woman who is known for her extensive tattoo coverage and has been dubbed the UK's most tattooed woman. Becky Holt. She's a model, an influencer and a mother of one. She transformed her body into a living canvas following tens of thousands of pounds on intricate designs covering her skin and is now using her platform to advocate for body positivity and self-expression. And I'm pleased to say that Becky joins me now. Becky, welcome.
Hi, Nana. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. And thank you so much for having me on the show today.
It's a pleasure. I saw the appearance on This Morning and couldn't stop laughing. He was very awkward there. It was all a bit of...
yeah.
Like? It was a bit...
Do you know what? He was really lovely. It was really nice to meet him. An opportunity I never thought I'd ever have. So it was lovely for me, and I'm sure it was lovely for him too.
Yeah. Well, he won't forget you.
No, I hope not. No, it was really nice.
I think some were hoping, is she coming in the bikini? No. No. So, Becky, talk to me about why and how you began tattooing. When did it start?
So I was 15 years old when I had my first tattoo. It was my boyfriend's name, and obviously we're not together anymore, and that tattoo also doesn't exist. And it just sort of started from there, really. I'd just had this obsession with them, and once I started getting tattoos, I thought, you know what, if I'm going to be tattooed, I'm going to tattoo my whole body. And I also really like the cover girls that were on the tattoo magazines and stuff like that. So, yeah, I just went for it, and here I am 20 years later, absolutely covered, but still going.
Well, you're beautiful. People might say, but why have you put them on your face?
I ran out of space. Simple as that. Yeah. You know, I always said I wouldn't do it. I always said when I started getting tattooed that I wasn't a fan of neck tattoos and I didn't like them on the hands. And then as my tattooing progressed, I guess, you know, that's just something that I decided I didn't want to leave out, and, you know, I wanted to cover those bases as well, and, yeah, I did.
Well, they actually look really good.
Thank you.
Now, I've been asking the viewers to guess how many you've got. Do you know how many you have?
I've got no idea.
No idea.
I've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. I have lost count of all the sessions I've had. I just don't know. It's one big one. Just one big one.
To estimate how many times you've had tattoo?
Honestly, I couldn't even... It's hundreds. I've had hundreds of sessions over the last 20 years. Like, I literally couldn't put a number on it.
Yeah.
So I'd just say I've got one big one.
Now, I was going to ask, you got rid of that tattoo of your first ever tattoo when you were 15. Where was the tattoo?
So it was right across my crotch. No. Yeah, it was my boyfriend's name, literally, right on my panty line. Yeah, not my wisest decision.
And your parents were crying?
Oh, my dad went mental. Yeah, my dad went absolutely mad at me. And it was my dad who actually paid for me to cover it up. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks, Dad.
That's probably the biggest regret with tattoos that you've had? Or
yeah, I mean, there's some now which I wish I hadn't had.
Like what?
Just my hands.
Really?
Just, yeah, my hands I don't like. I want to get them redone.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Hands are a difficult one to tattoo because the skin is different, and so when you put the design on it, and I feel like it looks great, and then the heel and it doesn't look that great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just want to get them covered up.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm happy with everything so far. Like, it's a work in progress. It's it's non-stop. I've been doing this all my life. I'll continue to do it all my life.
Well, it's been quite a good thing for you. It's been quite entrepreneurial, really, because you have your OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that go?
I'm kind of actually like not really doing OnlyFans anymore. It exists, but it's like a career that I've sort of left behind, and I've moved on to a new career path.
What are you doing now?
I work with adults with learning difficulties. Okay. So I'm like a support worker, and I go to work with them and help them, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you have a young child as well.
I do. I've got a 3-year-old girl.
Yeah. And what does she do? Does she look at your tattoos? Does she notice that Mummy has a tattooed face and the other mummies probably don't?
Do you know what? At first I thought like she didn't really pay much attention to them, and then once like my friends would come round who had tattoos, she'd be like, "Oh, you've got tattoos like Mummy," and then she said that she wanted them, so we got these little transfers, like you had when you were kids. When we were kids, sorry, and we'd put those on her, and yeah, she does have an interest in them. And if she's good at art, I'll push her to be a tattoo artist. It's a great career.
And would you mind her having lots of tattoos like you?
I wouldn't mind at all, providing they were done correctly by a good artist.
Yeah. Because it's quite... Some places it can be quite dangerous to get tattoos. What are the things for people to look out for if they want to do what you're doing? Yeah,
there's like... I think years ago there used to be a lot of backstreet tattoo artists and people that tattooed in the kitchen. Nowadays it's much more professional, and, yeah, there's a lot of really, really incredible artists out there that didn't exist when I started getting tattooed. We got all the sort of... We had to deal with all the rubbish, and we learnt from our mistakes now, so now I know you're not going anywhere terrible. Like, I'll make sure you get a really, really good artist to do your work.
And is there a particular favourite tattoo of yours that actually means something quite deep and personal?
I've got lots of tattoos that have lots of meaning. I've got my daughter's name, I've got my parents, I've got my grandma's favourite flower, I've got one for my sister, one for my best friend, one for my boyfriend. Like, I do have lots of them that have got meaning. I think my favourite tattoo is around my face and my torso and my chest and stuff. It's very intricate and very nicely designed, and I love the artist's work who did the art for me. So, yeah, I think those are my
it's really
favourites.
well framed. It frames your face really nicely.
Thank you.
As long as you don't sort of, like, put on loads of weight and suddenly your face goes out.
Well, do you know what's interesting, actually? When before I had my little girl... when I had my little girl, I gained 6 stone.
Yeah.
And then I was hired to do... where they covered... like a social experiment, and they covered all my tattoos. And because I had this extra weight on me, I was not used to seeing what I saw when they took all my tattoos away and they covered them all up with makeup and showed what I looked like. I was in shock because I had such a big... I felt like I had a really big jaw and I had this double chin and I had this extra weight on my face, and I was like, oh, my God, get it off, like, it's not me. And now I've obviously lost the weight, but still, I would never get rid of my face tattoos because I feel like they frame me and shape my face, and it looks better.
Yeah. So getting rid of tattoos, because you obviously got rid of one that you didn't like.
Yeah.
Is that a bit of a nightmare?
It's a very painful process and it's a long process. So laser, it doesn't just take one session, it can take 5 to 10, maybe 15 sessions in some occasions, depending on the size of the piece. And, yeah, colour. It's really, really difficult to get rid of colour tattoos. Yeah. And then you have to space these appointments out as well, 6 weeks to let your body heal. Yeah. So, yeah, it can be a really lengthy process to get rid of them. It's easier, actually, just to cover them up if you can.
Yeah. Or just don't do them in the first place, or make sure what you do...
No, you've got to do it, You've got to get the tattoo.
They don't do really good ones on dark skin, I've seen it. And
no, there are some really good ones.
No, but most of the black people I've seen with tattoos, they just look mouldy.
I know what you mean. I have seen some that I feel like the skin has been too dark to have the tattoo in the first place because if you've got dark skin and then you're trying to put something on dark, you just tend to look like you've got darker shades on your skin, whereas on white skin, it obviously shows up a lot more.
Yeah, that doesn't work unless... You can't put white tattoos on it.
You can, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a thing.
Is it?
Yeah, that's a thing. Google it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Now, you are campaigning for body positivity. Talk to me a bit about that.
I mean, I'm all for it. Yeah, you know, I just think that everybody should be able to express themselves the way, you know, if you are happy in your skin, then that's what you should be doing.
Well, you should just be happy in your own skin, be thankful, because, you know, you've only got one set of skins, I think, not unless there's something in the afterlife, but I make the most of this now, just in case nothing exists later.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of grief for the way that I look. A lot of people say to me, oh, but what's it going to look like when you're older? But I'm not living for then, I'm living for now, and this is sort of like... This is the lifestyle I've chosen to live and a passion that I've had since I was a very young age. I'm not just going to suddenly decide, oh, I made a mistake, you know? When I'm 60, I'm not going to go, oh, no, what have I done?
You might do.
I know, I doubt it.
No, I doubt it. I don't think so, somehow. So your next big thing, have you got a next big move to do? Is there something that's coming up that you can tell us?
Not really. I'm just focusing on my work with the disabled adults that I work with. That's just what I'm doing at the moment. I also have a little pub job, which I do.
Oh, I love that.
You know, I'm just working with... And I have my daughter, so I'm spending loads of time with her. And that's about it, really. I'm very normal. You know, I've just got a normal life now. All this being with the Prime Minister and stuff is very different to what I've been used to for the last couple of years, because I've been quite chill, really. I've, you know, just been getting tattooed and staying at home, being a stay-at-home mum, going on holiday, you know, just the normal stuff.
Well, listen, it's really lovely to meet you, Becky. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Tattoos. To be fair, I mean, I'm not a fan for tattoos, but they suit you, look beautiful.
Thank you.
I actually do like the ones on your face.
Thank you so much.
But it's a risk. People, if you're going to do that, make sure you know.
Oh, yeah.
People have got to know where they're going.
Yeah, no, it shocks people, it really does. I get really bad feedback sometimes, but you know what? It's my face and it's my body. I don't care if you've not got tattoos, so why do you care if I've got them?
Exactly.
That's what I say.
Sticking to them. Thank you very much, Becky.
Thank you so much.
That is Becky Holt. She's considered one of the most tattooed women in Britain, and I think she looks fabulous. But right now it is time for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £30,000. It is totally tax-free, which means you get all of it. Here are all the details that you need to take part.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. But next it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking who should lead the Tory party. Now, it wouldn't be Jeremy Hunt, so who else could be doing that? Stay tuned, we'll discuss.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. From 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back. Seven Kyriazis has as ever been to the theatre and saw one of the most successful performers of the modern age, one who has made his name in different genres on television and is always a magnetic presence on the stage. About whom are we talking, Stefan?
We're talking about James Corden at the Old Vic for the Constituent and its Traverse staging. So audience on either side, and it's a fantastic experience. But also it's been done this time to bring everything in a lot and make it quite intimate, because you just have one simple set. It's just a table, office space. This is a new play by Joe Penhall, and it's addressing very, very current issues of safety, especially for people in public service, doctors, nurses, teachers, and of course, as you know, politicians that are at risk and being attacked. So we have Joe Cox, Sir David Ames, and we have politicians talking about cancelling their surgeries, not wanting to appear in public, teachers being threatened. And James Corden plays an ex-serviceman who is going through a difficult divorce, dealing with a lot of PTSD, also feeling very much like fathers are overlooked, and he wants to fight for their rights. And an old school friend is a local MP, played by Anna Maxwell Martin. And he goes in to start talking to her, and it starts off quite chummy and jovial, and then it darkens and darkens. He gets quite aggressive and frustrated. She wants to help. She's an absolute idealist. This politician sense of we don't choose who we work for. You know, we are here by duty to work for everybody in our constituency. It spirals a lot. I have to say, Corden, sensational. Really? He really is a fantastic actor. Of all of them, he's so natural, and he has the most difficult role where his character is shifting all the time and becomes potentially quite threatening and dangerous, but then there's also a beautiful catharsis at the end.
The People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Welcome if you just tuned in. Lovely to have your company. It's just coming up to 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. Excuse me. I'm Nana Akua. We are live on GB News. We are Britain's news channel, and it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, who should lead the Tory party? Now, this is as former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt rules himself out of the running, and he's put his name in the hat. He put his name in the hat in 2019 and 2022, but he told GB News that the time has passed for him to launch a bid. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, who do you think should lead the party? Well, joining me now, former advisor to David Cameron, Philip Blond, political commentator Peter Spencer, also political commentator Stephen Carlton-Woods. Right, I'm going to start with you, Philip Blond. Who do you think should lead the Tory party?
Well, I think we've got to sketch out where they need to be from. Most crucially, they need to speak to the Reform voters who have taken 2/3 of the Conservative vote, and that means that they have to be or speak to the right, that is, speak to the concerns of those Reform voters. But it also has to, the Conservative Party has to make a decision about which group of voters is most important to it. What it can't do is try to appeal to the left and the right at the same time and do neither, which is essentially what the 2014 offer has been. So there's a sense in which I think it has to come from the right, but it's got to be a new sort of right, the right that Miriam Cates has spoken about, that doesn't do the hard economic liberalism that put so many people off and put, for instance, Liz Truss out of office. It's got to be a new offer that for the people who haven't benefited from the last 30 or 40 years, that also could appeal to a middle class that has now turned left. And I think that's the triangulation that's needed.
Do you think if they appeal to the right, so the sort of maybe swallow barrels, but then that's just being conservative, I thought. Surely, Peter Spencer, isn't that just being conservative rather than this lily-livered approach that a lot of people may say the Conservative Party have shown?
Well, I mean, the Conservative Party, which has always traded as a broad church, has shown itself in recent years as little more than a loose coalition of warring tribes, which in large measure, I would argue, is the reason why the punters on Thursday told them to do one, if you'll forgive my relapse into the vernacular there. I mean, they do have an existential identity crisis which has to be resolved. Do they go firmly to the right or firmly to the left? There can't be a bit of both. That very manifestly is the case. Now, the question is, I mean, if someone like James Cleverly, for example, gets the job, Penny Mordaunt, I see she's got on the screen, I mean, she's out of it because she lost her vote, not lost her seat. Yeah. James Cleverly comes into the frame potentially alternatively. And then, of course, on the right, we have Suella Braverman, who's actually came out of the traps effectively a few days ago. And in fact, has been out of the traps for months. Let's get real here. Now, if she does get it, the question is, does she link arms with Nigel Farage and Reform? Now, there are only a handful of Reform MPs, that is true, but at the same time, they did get more than 4 million votes at the last election. So it's very, very tempting. Now, Nigel Farage has said he won't under no circumstances will he join up, link arms with them, but at the same time, just a few weeks before the election was called, he also ruled himself out of standing for it at all, which only goes to
I
prove
don't think
that
you can equate the two. I don't think you can equate those two things.
No,
It's
but
totally
you
different.
take my point. I mean, things can change. That's my point.
You think?
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, of course they can. Yeah, I mean, although one could also argue that nothing is ever true in politics until it is officially denied.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Stephen Pound. What's your thoughts on this? I mean, I think Reform and the Conservative Party are two very different parties. But what do you think?
I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, no, the Conservatives have got to, I mean, both of your speakers have actually put their finger on the same pulse, if you like. Look, the Tories have got to decide where they're going to go. Are they going to try to out-Labour Labour, you know, in the sort of social democratic centre ground? Are they going to try to out-reform to the right wing, or are they going to, you know, move on to some sort of populist, pan-European, maybe, you know, left-wing thing? So if Robert Jenrick wants to stand for the right wing, if Tom Tugendhat wants to stand for the left, if Victoria Atkins wants to stand for the middle, it's almost irrelevant, because the key person here, the kingmaker, is Nigel Farage. If Suella Braverman or Kemi Badenoch want to stand, or Priti Patel, all he has to do, Nigel Farage will speak to the Conservative Party members who, after all, elect the leader, and say, if you choose person X, I will not stand against them. If he made that offer, then you can absolutely 100% guarantee that that person would get it. If, however, the Tories decide to change and go back to the old system of having the 100 and whatever it is MPs elect the person, then it will probably be somebody like Tom Tugendhat. So the key question here is, where do the Tories want to go? What pond are they fishing in? Because they cannot fish in the same pond as the Labour Party. We've actually taken all the fish from that pond.
Well, you say that, but I think the Tory party, their behaviour over the last year is somewhat embarrassing. Do you really think that any of the parties will want to affiliate with them, Philip? Most people looking at, I mean, we saw how Rishi announced the election in the rain. I mean, that was terrible. The music, things can only get better. He stood under the exit sign in the Titanic Quarter. He left D-Day early. I mean, these are just some of the ones I can remember. And this is just in the last sort of 6 months. That's not even in the year. Who would want to associate with them and unite with them with all of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we're seeing here is the failure of the Thatcherite economic and social offer. What we've had since David Cameron's election in 2010 is the same economic policy, the same social policy, and it's failed. We've had social liberalism that has driven people into the arms of reform, that has enabled woke ideology to penetrate our schools and all levels of public service, and the government did nothing about that, and is also presiding over economic failure. You know, we never responded properly to the financial crisis. Our productivity has dropped, and we're a poor country with quite a lot of rich people in it, if I can put it like that. So we need a completely new economic and social offer. And the question is who can deliver that? And I think it's got to be, because the people who are voting for reform are people who are left economically of where the Conservative government was, and right socially. The future for the Conservative Party has to be turn left economically and right culturally. And that is the triangulation that can appeal to those who voted for Liberal Democrats and to Reform voters, because that is where both Reform voters are and a substantial proportion of Tory Labour switchers and Tory Lib Dem switchers.
Stephen Pound, do you think he's right about that, or do you think the memory of this last year, which is in most people's mind, but also the last 13, 14 years, is just a bit too hard for anybody to think about uniting alongside that party?
Well, I take your point. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily want your daughter to marry them if that was that case. Look, the reality is we've got 5 years till the next election. We've got a long time to go, and there's plenty of water going to flow under the bridge. There's going to be by-elections. There's going to be splits. The Labour Party is not actually known for being entirely cohesive. We don't all love each other like brothers and sisters. Disraeli said the Tories party was a organised hypocrisy. Well, unfortunately, all parties are coalitions, and some are less coalition than others. But look, the reality is they've got to decide once and for all where do they want to go. And I think what Philip said was very, very interesting. Populism is something you can't define as left or right. You can have it partly economically left, socially right, or vice versa. Yeah. I think they could well be looking at Maloney, they could be looking at what's happening in some of the other European countries and thinking populism is the answer. But the reality is, if they need to actually sit down, I don't think they need to make a decision here and now.
So for a leader, so if you were to say somebody, give me a name of who you think right now could lead that Tory party. We've got about 10 seconds left. So Stephen Pound.
Ian Duncan-Smith.
Okay, we'll go to Philip Blond.
Suella Braverman or Robert Jenrick.
And finally, Peter Spencer.
I think James Cleverly, if they want to get re-elected, Nigel Farage would dearly love the job.
Do you think? Listen, thank you so much for your thoughts. Former advisor to David Cameron, Philip Blond, former Labour MP Stephen Pound, also former, and also... say that, it says your name twice. Oh, cracking screen's gone. Well, listen, thank you so much to you, Peter Spencer, as well. Well, listen, stay tuned. Loads to sort of coming on GB News. I'm asking who should lead the Tory party. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you very much and good afternoon. These are the top stories from the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda is now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the Prime Minister ruled out the controversial scheme which had failed to deport a single migrant. He also said Labour's election victory has given them a clear mandate to govern in all four corners of the United Kingdom. Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GB News that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seats, Godalming and Ash, and has previously tried twice to become Conservative leader. Police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife, a journey which would have taken him around 11 hours. Police called off the official search last week, but Slater's mother says they will stay on the island to look for him. And England have kicked off with Switzerland in the Euros football tournament. It's still 0-0, 30 minutes in. The Three Lions looking for a spot in the semis. Switzerland haven't beaten England in the past 13 attempts since 1981. The Princess of Wales has paid tribute to Andy Murray, saying he should be so very proud after he missed out on a final match at Wimbledon. The former world #1's Wimbledon career is now over after Emma Raducanu pulled out of their mixed doubles clash with stiffness in her wrist. The 37-year-old Scot made his final appearance at the All England Club on Thursday when he lost alongside older brother Jamie in the men's doubles. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I am Tatiana Sanchez. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, welcome welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend is sunny spells for some of us, scattered showers around, but still feeling cool. We've got low pressure generally in charge. That's moving its way eastwards, and northwesterly winds giving that cool feel for the time of year. So through this afternoon, any showers gradually easing later on, so turning dry across parts of England in towards the southeast, but showers still continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland before further showers come in from the southwest. Temperatures tonight, though, under the clear spells, 10 or 11 degrees, but feeling fresher across parts of rural Scotland. So to start Sunday morning, there will be some drier and brighter weather around, especially across eastern parts to start the day. But further towards the southwest, we've got a focus for some heavy showers moving in from the south, heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder, and coming into northwestern parts of England as well. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers as well, just into coastal areas, but across parts of Scotland, a little bit drier with plenty of sunshine, just some rain coming to Orkney and Shetland to start the day. So as we go through Sunday, showers continuing, but actually becoming more widespread as we go through into the afternoon. Heavy at times, containing the odd rumble of thunder too. Across Scotland, dry here with some sunnier spells and lighter winds for many of us as well. So that will help with the temperatures, giving a slightly warmer feel where you do catch any sunshine. And across parts of Scotland, temperatures recovering up around to 15 degrees. Sunday evening then, we'll start to see showers fading away, turning drier with some late evening sunshine. But another area of low pressure is coming in towards the southwest. So as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday generally unsettled, but temperatures may be recovering just slightly.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, who should lead the Tories? Now, this is as former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt rules himself out of the running. He told GB News that his time had passed for him to do this. What do you think? Who should do it? We've got lots of different options, different people who could potentially go for it. There's James Cleverly, some have suggested, Suella Braverman, who may throw a hat in the ring, Kemi Badenoch. So many options, but who do you think should do that? So let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me now, Matthew Larser, and also Lizzie Cundy. Matthew Larser.
So, I mean, I don't like to intrude on private grief, and the battle really has begun. I think the key thing from, given my experience in the Labour Party is pause. So we saw Rishi saying that he's going to stay on as long, until the new leader is, and we don't know what the procedure is. There's talk he's going to change the rules. Because in 2015, when I worked for Ed Miliband, Ed resigned on the morning of the election. People don't realise how brutal it is. We got on the train back from Doncaster, when we got to London, I had to organise the resignation press conference, and then he was literally stopped being the leader there and then. Harriet Harman went to who was the deputy, went to the D-Day, the VE Day commemoration. So pause and think, otherwise you might end up with a Jeremy Corbyn. So that's what I say. Pause, have a think.
I don't normally agree with you, Matthew, but I agree. I think they've really got to take some time and think about what they want to do and who they are. They've lost their identity. They've lost what really Conservative means. They're this wishy-washy blue, the more liberal, Lib Dems, and they're divided. All this fighting, that's what lost them the election. That it just destroyed them. So they need to take a step back and have a think of who they want to be. Are they going to go back to being true blue Tories, or are they going to be this liberal-style Tories and more forward-thinking and agreeing with all this woke nonsense?
See, what annoys me is when people say, oh, well, Reform should join the Tory party, and they're two separate parties. It's like saying the Liberal Democrats should join the Greens, or the SNP should join the Labour Party. It's up to each party to be responsible for their own downfall or their own rise.
I mean, Suella, they're saying, we know they should get in cahoots now with Reform and Nigel Farage. Nigel doesn't want anything to do with the Tory party. He's totally let down by them. They've had 14 years of lies and what they did to Brexit, and he's totally upset with Boris Johnson, who will not be next in line. He's really let the country down.
What's he been saying, Boris? Because I hear he said something recently.
Oh, he's totally blaming the demise of the Tory party on Nigel Farage. How about him look at himself?
Absolutely. And you're completely right. I mean, what really annoys me, and just as it seems to you, Nana, is when people just think you can just stick together the Reform vote and the Tory vote. It's complete nonsense. It's like sticking together the Greens, the Liberals and Labour. And certainly not under the current electoral system we have. You make your choice. And loads of ex-Labour voters and non-voters voted Reform, and so you can't just read the two across. I mean, I think that the person that Labour feared most was Penny Mordaunt.
Really?
Because, I think particularly in opposition, Penny would have seemed a contrast to rather dour, to use that Scottish word, to be polite. Some would say dull. Say Keir. At least Penny had a personality and sort of she was good when she was leader of the House in those questions. But obviously she's now not an option. So I'm not sure there's anyone in particular that Labour were worried about. Labour just hoping that they kind of fight amongst themselves.
Well, I think their in-house fighting has destroyed them. I think the Tories are really toast.
Totally.
And I think Reform are the next alternative to the Labour Party. And don't forget, they were running up, they were second place in 98 seats. Yeah. It's incredible. And, but with every good government, you need a good opposition. That is the worry.
And the first by-election will be a big test.
Well, what is the point of opposition when you have such a large majority? I mean, unless they become their own opposition, like the Conservatives, when they had the 80-seat majority, they didn't need an opposition. But as Philip Lom did actually point out, all parties are fragmented in different ways. So do you think the Labour Party are at risk of sort of fighting like cats in a sack?
Yeah, I think the difference will be, yes. I mean, what you have in the Labour Party is there's a kind of core group. It's actually stayed about 20, which is a higher percentage when you had fewer MPs, but is now obviously more MPs, smaller percentage. From the traditional left, they got rid of the absolute sort of Jeremy Corbyn. I was about to be unpolitically correct, sort of absolutely not sensible people, if I put it like that. But so they will voice up on issues, on certain issues. But generally, all these new MPs are going to kind of cut into Keir's mould. So what you're not going to see is the five families. Mark Francois says 5 families of Tories. I don't think we're going to see 5 Labour families. Doesn't mean there won't be the odd route. And I think Gaza's obviously going to be a big issue because of the impact it had on the Muslim vote.
Well, listen, coming up, my quick fire quiz where I test the panel on all the different elements within the stories that caught their eye. But next it's time to find out what your views are. So let's speak to our Great British debaters and our wonderful People's panel. They're joining me now. Great British Voices. Find out what they think about the topics we're discussing. Right, who shall I start with? I'm going to start with you. Brian Dugan, you're usually the last. I'll put you first today. What do you think? Who should lead the Tories?
Well, I hope you're putting me first, Nana, because I've been pretty straightforward in terms of what I've been thinking in terms of this election. And I think I've called it pretty accurately all the way. In terms of who should lead the Tories, clearly doesn't matter. The Tories have chosen Boris Johnson, a buffoon, Liz Truss, who actually I felt sorry for in the end. She shouldn't have been there. It's clearly indicative of where the Tories are. The Tories and the right of British politics really needs a real think about where the country is. And I'm being serious now, Nana. A real think. A real long, hard think.
Well, you're talking to me. You're talking to me. I take a long, hard look at myself. I can see myself in the monitor. I'm taking a long, hard look.
In terms of where you believe the country should be. Because it's clearly not the moderate centrist ground. So you're either headed in that direction or you're headed towards Nigel Farage.
I think, let me be honest, I think that let's not get overinflated with this victory here. They won a third of the votes and they got 2/3 of the seat. The way this is set up... No, I listened to you for a bit, Brian.
You're talking nonsense. It's first past the post.
No, that's fine.
It doesn't matter
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine, Brian, but the bottom line is...
You're talking nonsense. It's first past the post. You're talking about a different system. You're talking about a different system now.
No, I haven't actually said very much. My point is this, that whilst we could all see the trajectory, the Tories were a disaster. We certainly don't want that lot running the country.
But you never said that before the election. You were talking, all your debates are about how terrible Keir Starmer is, about how terrible Labour are.
They're all terrible. You haven't listened to anything. Brian, you haven't listened. That's not true.
No. At yourself, and you know that, Nana.
I'm loving this.
Listen, Brian, let me be very clear to you.
It's not a Brian show.
I actually think the Tories were toast, and I've been saying they've been toast for quite some time. I don't like a lot of the way they're behaving, and in particular, the last year has been a disaster. I did not like the way they got rid of Boris. I thought it was disgraceful. I did not like the way they got rid of Liz Truss. I thought it was horrendous. I did not like the way they behaved over the last year, and I've made that very, very clear. Right, let me go to Lee. There's two other people. There's two other people. There's two other people. Lee Webb.
Right, I think the Conservative Party needs somebody stable and not somebody that shoots from the hip, and I think that person's either Ian Duncan-Smith or Kemi Badenoch. To be quite honest, I think the Tories are going to be out for quite a long time. I think Labour is going to implode in the next 12 months. I think there's going to be divisions there, and I think the future is something like Reform or an SDP-style party that doesn't go around whether it's left or right, but is a populist movement that brings in common sense policies that most people want.
Well, we'd all like to see that. Adrian Gell in Shropshire. What do you think, Adrian?
Well, actually, I'm with you, Nana. I think, though, that what's really important is that we've lost, the Tory party has completely lost the blue end of the spectrum. It became a pink party, which was absolutely useless. Totally incapable of making any decisions at all. Now, if you look back to some of the speeches of Margaret Thatcher, she was hugely anti-socialist. She was hugely pro-freedom of speech, pro-business, pro-productivity, encouraging people to invest in the stock market and increase their pockets and their worth. That is what we now need as a Conservative leader. And I think that will come, as Lee suggested, from Ian Duncan-Smith. I have a sneaking suspicion Ian Duncan-Smith lost his seat anyway.
Listen, we're running out of time because Brian and Solihull took it all. Tell me to have a long, hard look at myself. You do realise I can see myself. Right, OK, listen, thank you. I'm always looking at myself. I love looking at myself, I've got to be honest with you. Thank you so much, Brian Duguid, Adrian Gell and also Lee in Bedfordshire. There's my great British voices. Coming up, my quick fire quiz. I'll test the panel with some of the stories that caught their eye. Next, though, we're going to cross live to Germany and find out, well, you know what, football.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Prince Harry obviously set up the Invictus Games in collaboration with Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, as part of their royal foundation, but Prince Harry took it under his wing separately. And last month he celebrated the 10th anniversary back in London. It's Invictus Games is an Olympic-style competition to help wounded veterans from various different countries with their rehabilitation through the power of sport. And that's what he's being honoured for. The reason he's got it is because of the positive impacts on and I quote, on veteran communities through the power of sport. Pat Tillman, what the award is named after, he was a US war veteran. He was killed in Afghanistan in 2004. Prince Harry, of course, served 2 tours himself. Whether he deserves it, Martin, to answer your question, clearly the judges think that that is the case. Of course, I think what we're seeing from Prince Harry over the last couple of months is him really focusing on his passion, which is helping veterans and helping families of veterans, rather than what we've seen over the last few years, which is him talking about himself and complaining about his life as a working member of the royal family.
Now, Cameron, nobody can deny the importance of the Invictus Games. What an amazing achievement. Perhaps Prince Harry's finest achievement in terms of public relations.
Having someone like Prince Harry or another working member of the royal family with their fame can spotlight very worthy causes, such as the plight of veterans and those who feel like they've been left behind and do not have enough support when they come out of the British Armed Forces. And that's something, as you alluded to, Martin, that Prince Harry perhaps arguably has done very successfully over the last decade. And if Prince Harry's name wasn't on the Invictus Games, would it have done so well? That's probably the arguments they'd make. But as you say, not everyone's happy about the fact that Prince Harry's involved, but he is. Clearly, many people think he deserves it because he's getting this award in Los Angeles.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So the 3 lions are roaring in Germany. England and Switzerland are currently going head-to-head in the Euro quarter-finals. Fans have been enjoying their day out in Germany, and we're hoping that we might win. So joining us now is GB News reporter Sophie Reaper, who is at a watch party in Bolton, and also Jack Carson, who's in Dusseldorf. Right, what does it look like it's coming home? I'm going to start with you, Jack Carson, seeing as you're there.
Well, do you know what? It's been such a fantastic atmosphere all day. There are tens of thousands of England fans in Dusseldorf for this quarter-final. Of course, we've just had the first half. It's been better, probably, than what we've had before, but let's find out quickly the view from a few England fans. Guys, first half so far, what have you made of it?
Good enough for me, son. It's a hard one, to be fair. We knew the Swiss was going to be a good side, but you expect more being an England fan, don't you? But hasn't happened so far, has it?
Do you think we can still get through to the semis tonight?
100%. Listen, there's 45 minutes. Listen again.
England! All right, well, there we go. It's a very quick view from some of the England fans. Southgate's 100 gaming. You can hear the atmosphere already.
Let's get to Sophie Reaper. Sophie Reaper's at a watch party. Sophie, how's it going there? It's very quiet there. More civilised where you are.
Well, it's not quite as crazy as it is for Jack over in Dusseldorf. I'm joined by Andy Critchley, who's the owner of this bar here in Bolton. Andy, what have you made of the game so far?
It's an hard one, isn't it? I wouldn't say it's frustrating, but it's certainly better than the other games. Certainly better. I think the balance is better. We've had the chances. Nerve-wracking. Definitely nerve-wracking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I'm lucky enough to be in my hometown of Bolton today, but not just my hometown. This is the street that I grew up on. And Andy and I have been watching football together for years. We're both Bolton fans. Andy, what's harder to watch, Bolton Wanderers or England?
Oh, crikey. So our last game, Bolton, Wembley. Yeah, it worked.
Sophie, it's obviously harder to watch England, let's be honest. Listen, Sophie, we're going to go to the quickfire quiz. Lovely, that's Sophie Reaper out there. Right, yes, obviously it's harder to watch England. You know what they did to us last time. But right now it's time for the quickfire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the stories hitting the headlines right now. Joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Your buzzer, please.
Yeah. I've got one back.
No buzzers, OK. And also former advisor to the Labour Party, Matthew Lowson.
I'll do it through mime as well.
Right, OK. Right, first of all, question 1. Sir Keir Starmer has taken the keys to number 10, but who has the new Prime Minister named as his Energy Secretary? Is it A, David Lammy, B, Liz Kendall, or C, Ed Miliband?
I was
You
were
early while the
question
was still on. Let me be very clear. You, Lizzie Cundy, went before I'd finished the question. So, that's Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband, absolutely right. It's Ed Miliband. Sorry, Lizzie, darling. Right, let's do next. That's right, if you've got it at home. Number 2, England are facing Switzerland in the quarterfinals of the Euros. How many times has England reached the quarterfinals since the tournament was founded in 1958? Closest answer wins. Lizzie Cundy.
6.
5.
The answer is 6. Oh, no, it's 5. Sorry.
It was camera 6.
It was camera 6, it's 5.
Yeah.
However, you pressed your buzzer before.
No, Lizzie went before me.
No, I didn't.
She went, no, not this time. I will let you have the point. Right, how did Joe Biden describe himself in the radio interview but confused listeners all over the world? How did he describe himself? Lizzie Cundy.
As a black woman?
OK.
It's so many confusing things I can't think.
OK, the answer is he described himself as the first black woman to serve with a black president. Right,
This man cannot stand for
Emma
president.
Raducanu has reached the last 16 at Wimbledon this year. True or false? Lizzie Cundy.
True.
It's true, but I'll say false.
OK, well, it is actually true. Well done, Lizzie Cundy. That's joint scores. Final question. To get Starmer was rumoured to be the inspiration behind which character in the film? Was it William Thacker from Notting Hill, Mark Darcy from Bridget Jones, or Christian Grey with 50 Shades of Grey? Lizzie Cundy.
B.
Which
it's
is?
B.
It's B. Mark Darcy. Let's see if she's right. She takes it, Mark Darcy. Sorry, Matthew. Larsie, you
Winner.
lose. How could you do that?
It was B.
England.
It was, but no, I said it was B, but
she was first.
She got in first.
Yeah.
I'm better on the buzzer.
On today's show, I've been asking, is it time for electoral reform? And who should lead the Tories? According to our Twitter poll, 90% of you say, yes, we need electoral reform. And 50% of you think Suella Braverman would lead the Tories.
Interesting.
Yeah, who do you think, Lizzie? Quickly.
I think Kemi.
I think it should be Suella versus Victoria Atkins.
Right, well, I've got to say thank you so much to my panel, Lizzie Cundy and also Matthew Larser. And thank you to you at home for your company. I will see you same time, same place tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Up next is the Saturday 5.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend is sunny spells with some of us, scattered showers around but still feeling cool. We've got low pressure generally in charge. That's moving its way eastwards and northwesterly winds giving that cool feel for the time of year. So through this afternoon, any showers gradually easing later on, so turning dry across parts of England in towards the southeast, but showers still continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland before further showers come in from the southwest. Temperatures tonight, though, under the clear spells, 10 or 11 degrees, but feeling fresher across parts of rural Scotland. So to start Sunday morning, there will be some drier and brighter weather around, especially across eastern parts to start the day. But further towards the southwest, we've got a focus for some heavy showers moving in from the south, heavy at times with the odd rumble of thunder, and coming into northwestern parts of England as well. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers as well, just into coastal areas, but across parts of Scotland, a little bit drier with plenty of sunshine, just some rain coming to Orkney and Shetland to start the day. So as we go through Sunday, showers continuing, but actually becoming more widespread as we go through into the afternoon. Heavy at times, containing the odd rumble of thunder too. Across Scotland, dry here with some sunnier spells and lighter winds for many of us as well. So that will help with the temperatures, giving a slightly warmer feel where you do catch any sunshine. And across parts of Scotland, temperatures recovering up around to 15 degrees. Sunday evening then we'll start to see showers fading away, turning drier with some late evening sunshine, but another area of low pressure is coming in towards the southwest. So as we go into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday generally unsettled, but temperatures may be recovering just slightly.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far, and it could be yours. Phil was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox. I just looked at my account and thought, oh my God, yeah, it's true, it's gone into my account. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have saved Storm. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done. Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, along with Albie Allen Corner, Emma Webb, Ben Leo, and Benjamin Butterworth. Tonight on the show,
what is Rishi Sunak's legacy?
Pro-Gaza MPs threaten democracy.
this Soviet-style majority is disgraceful for our electoral system.
Why the media class is fawning over Labour is embarrassing and pathetic.
And a new dawn has broken, has it not? It has not. It's 6 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. A very warm welcome to the Saturday 5 and thank you for choosing us over Gareth Southgate, because it's been a dramatic, momentous, history-making week after months of, well, even years of waiting. It finally happened and we'll all remember where we were when we did it. At exactly 10 p.m. on Thursday evening, word spread from pub to pub, from house to house, throughout this green and pleasant land. Benjamin Butterworth had bought a round of drinks in. This rare event occurred because Benjamin was out watching the exit polls come in with his old sparring partner, Albie Allen Corner. Mixed emotions, as you can see, displayed across their faces. Benjamin and Albie are both here tonight to assess the election fallout. Ben Leo is back as well. He's been doing his bit for climate change and completing the lineup in our first ever show under a Labour government, the brilliant broadcaster and commentator Emma Webb. Now, folks, you know the drill. Each host outlines their arguments about a chosen topic. Then we all pile in and it goes downhill faster than a Tory cabinet member's career prospects. And, of course, we want to know your views as well. Please do send them in. Post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget to get your questions in for Ask the Five. No topic is off limits. But before we start tearing each other apart, it's his Saturday night news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Darren, thank you and good evening. The top story. Sir Keir Starmer says Rishi Sunak's plans to send migrants to Rwanda is now dead and buried. Speaking after the first meeting of his new cabinet, the Prime Minister ruled out the controversial scheme, which had failed to deport a single migrant. He also said Labour's election victory has given them a clear mandate to govern in all four corners of the United Kingdom.
Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent, almost the opposite, because everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%.
The leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has reacted by claiming Labour will struggle to deal with the issue of illegal immigration.
Well, he said he would do it. At least he's kept a promise, I suppose. Look, Rwanda was never going to work. What Keir Starmer is proposing, which is to, tackle the gangs, well, frankly, the last government were doing that for the last few years. It's not going to work. At the minute, it's wild and windy, but we do have some pretty strong first-hand accounts that as soon as we get a calm spell, they'll be crossing the English Channel in their thousands. And let's face it, Keir Starmer does not have a plan to deal with it.
Former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out of standing for the Tory leadership. When asked, he told GB News that the time has passed. He managed to hold on to his seat, Godalming and Ash, and has previously tried twice to become Conservative leader. Meanwhile, Suella Braverman has failed to rule herself out, simply saying that there were no announcements. Some breaking news in the last few minutes. The final seat in the general election has now been declared, with the Liberal Democrat Party winning Inverness, Skye and West Ross-shire. More on that as we get it. To other news now, police in Tenerife say Jay Slater's family can bring in their own search and rescue teams to look for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after setting off on a walk back to his accommodation in Tenerife, a journey which would have taken him around 11 hours. Police called off the official search last week, but Slater's mother says they will stay on the island to look for him. In the United States, President Biden is refusing to take a cognitive test to determine if he's in mental decline. In an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, he also dismissed calls for some Democrats to step aside and let a younger candidate take on the Republican Donald Trump. Biden's been attempting to defuse the political crisis over his shaky debate performance. He claims he simply had a bad night.
Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do.
It was a goalless first half for England as they take on Switzerland in the Euros football tournament. The Three Lions had some good chances in the first half, though, mainly through Arsenal's Bukayo Saka's right channel. Gareth Southgate's men looking for a spot in the semi-finals. Switzerland haven't beaten England in the past 13 attempts since 1981. The second half is now underway. And the Princess of Wales has paid tribute to Andy Murray, saying he should be so very proud after he missed out on a final match at Wimbledon. The former world #1 Murray's Wimbledon career is now over after Emma Raducanu pulled out of their mixed doubles clash with stiffness in her wrist. The 37-year-old Scot made his final appearance at the All England Club on Thursday when he lost alongside older brother Jamie in the men's doubles. He'll head off on holiday now with his family before preparing for the final event of his tennis career at the Olympics in Paris. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
The Thank you, Tatiana. It's Saturday night, folks, and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, and I can promise that you're in for more arguments and more argy-bargy than you get at a Reform Party press conference. We're going to crack on with tonight's first debate. And, well, to mark the dawn of this new era, for the first time in the history of the Saturday 5, Benjamin Butterworth is going to lead us off. Benjamin, what might you like to discuss this evening, I wonder?
Well, good evening, comrades. We are now under a Labour government. I'm sure it's not escaped anybody's notice. Keir Starmer has not just become Prime Minister, but he has seen the biggest shift in parliamentary history. And actually, he has the biggest majority in parliamentary history, because although Tony Blair got a few more MPs, there were more MPs in Parliament at the time. That is how big Starmer's victory was. There are no Tories in Wales. Scotland is a Labour heartland again. For the first time ever, Cornwall has 4 Labour MPs there, more than the Tories that had the whole place just a few weeks ago. We have a situation where there isn't a single Tory in inner London. And I think this shows the one thing that the people were calling for. For weeks, they said Starmer was boring, that he was unexciting, that it was a boring election. Well, now the circus has left the town, and I, for one, could not be more grateful. Now, Ben Leo, you love a clown show.
Yes, I sit one next to one every week, it seems.
You must think that, you know, at least we've got someone serious in charge.
Do you know what? Let me be honest and frank. Let's lay our cards on the table. I am actually positive, optimistic, and actually quite hopeful that we have someone like Keir Starmer in charge. He said he wants to govern for everybody, even if they didn't vote for Labour. His performance at the Crown Prosecution Service was admirable. He was a public leader who we should have been looking up to. Yeah, I'm very, very thankful we now have a Labour government.
Are you joking?
Yes, absolutely. Keir Starmer is a man who took the knee for Black Lives Matter, the corrupt scam of an organisation that promotes racial division. He's a man... Let me finish. He's a man who finally decided the definition of a woman after taking advice from the bad smell that doesn't go away, Tony Blair. This is a man who flip-flops and U-turns and doesn't know what day of the week it is, even if he's got a calendar smack bang in his face.
Well, you might think he doesn't know the definition of a woman, but he clearly knows the definition of a victory.
Yeah, sorry, let me just add to that. A hollow victory, which is being described as ocean-wide and ponds deep.
And, Benjamin, you mentioned there that the circus is gone. I think the circus is just starting, and actually this government are going to bring a whole new meaning to the Bearded Lady Act, because their self-ID policy really does take us into new places.
Labour doesn't have a self-ID policy.
Yes, it does.
It does not.
Yes, it does.
But, look, I mean, it is... I'm obviously gleeful and relieved. I was 13 years old the last time a Labour government was elected, and I stayed up secretly all night to watch Tony Blair be returned to his rightful place in 10 Downing Street. And then my grandmother found me the next morning and was utterly bemused that I was so obsessed with politics, let alone with the Labour Party. But
so we have Tony Blair to blame for something else then.
For a lot of my joys. The only time I ever skipped school was to watch Gordon Brown deliver a budget. That's how obsessed I was. But Albie, the Tories are in their worst result ever.
Yes.
And they are already tearing themselves apart before the election result came in. Now, let me say this. I genuinely think the reason that Keir Starmer has this majority is not because of a sort of ideological move in the country. That hasn't happened. It's because he's serious and tries to look competent. Do you realise that that's what the Tories have lost, and they've lost it for a long time?
Look, I think I'm furious about what's happened over the past couple of days with the election result that we saw.
Why? Your party, the Lib Dems, got more than 70 seats.
That's a very funny joke. But if I was a Lib Dem, I'd be a lot happier than I am now currently at Ben. So maybe you can just forget about that stupidity for a second. I'm furious about Rishi Sunak's time in office. I'm furious about Boris Johnson's time in office. I'm furious about Liz Truss's time in office. The Conservative Party has completely destroyed its reputation over the last 5 years, and particularly over the last 2 or 3 years. You know,